How are you doing?
Good. I'm so glad that three of you are going before I am.
Are you up?
Your computer doesn't go to sleep, does it?
Nope.
Oh, it's painless.
But yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good question. It's not supposed to, but now that you say that.
TJ said it would work, right, TJ?
What's that, Judge?
I said I could have stayed home and watched it on the monitor tonight, but
You could have.
thought,
But we
no.
switched questions out for you anyway, so.
Oh no, different
Yeah,
question.
I don't give you the same questions.
Well, I can go home now.
Where is display and screensaver?
No, I
His
figured
desktop
you'd have
screensaver.
questions changed. Daryl, how you doing?
I'm glad you said something.
You're up when? Next week?
Monday. Cold to me. A week from Monday. Yeah, a week.
Start after never.
I'm pretty sure I'm up Thursday.
Yeah, you're tired.
There we go. We should have everyone in.
Gonna make it?
There we go.
Where is that?
Good.
This one doesn't have everyone
One,
in
two.
it, though.
Yeah. And then you just hit that. Make sure it stays in frame.
Well, that's, said it puts,
Yeah, you make sure you get our good side.
That's every that's every side. That's every side.
Hey, we need to do this. Let us know, okay?
Will do.
We expect you to make us. So does it stay on us all the time?
It does.
Yes, just speak into the mic. Sometimes they pick up sometimes. If everyone has their notes and stuff like that, you can't have it up and down. Sorry about that. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome out to College of the Mainland's Learning Resource Center. Glad to have you out here today for our second of 4 forums sponsored by the Galveston County Daily News. This first one here this afternoon features the candidates for Justice of the Peace Precinct 1. They're all in the Republican primary, we should note out. And we'll be getting underway here in about 20 seconds. 20 seconds, we'll be getting underway, so if everyone can grab your seats. Some folks are scooting across the parking lot too. And we do ask that no one walk in front, walk in front of the camera here at any point during the program today. Thank you very much. Yeah, we start in 20 seconds. Yeah, you Brooklyn girls, we can go here.
I know, we can do what we want.
Hey Dave, go ahead and start. Dave, will we roll? The red dot. Oh, we have to make sure the red dot's on the screen.
It's on the screen.
Yes. All right, welcome out again, folks. My name is TJ Alls. I'm mainland editor of the Galveston County Daily News. We're glad to have you out here this afternoon. And don't worry, we will have breaks in between the forums this afternoon and into this evening. A couple of housekeeping notes. First of all, because I've been asked 12 times already, the restrooms, you do have to go outside and around the corner over here. They are located on the back side of the building here. And how many of y'all have your cell phones or mobile phones here with you today? Please hold them up for me if you would. Now turn them off. Turn up or put them on vibrate. We did have some interruptions our last forum, so I want to please encourage you to turn those off or put them on vibrate. And if you don't know how that works, more than glad we'll have someone help you out with that here in just a little bit. First, before we get going, I'd like to ask everyone to please rise, and we'll have the pledges to the United States of America flag and the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank y'all very much. We're glad to have you out here today. And before we get going full bore with our forum, I'd like to bring up our president and publisher of the Galveston County Daily News, Mr. Leonard Woolsey. He has a few words for you here this afternoon.
Well, thank you, TJ, and thank you for everyone being here tonight. This is another exciting event. It's the second one in our series. I'm happy to see everybody come out because this is what democracy is about, the opportunity to view the candidates that are about to take the place for you on your work every day. I'm very honored to be here to share this event with you today. I ask that you sit back, take good mental notes. If you have some questions, please think of those as yourself, and please feel free to share those with us, the newspaper, at another time. But TJ, I want to offer a round of applause for our wonderful candidates that have shown out today. Thank you.
And now time to introduce our candidates, and this is how we check our microphones. Again, candidates, you need to speak into your microphone clearly so we can hear you. First up, the challenger in the race, Stephanie Barnett.
Good afternoon or good evening, how are y'all doing?
And challenger Allison Cox.
Good evening.
And the incumbent, Tony Randall.
Hello, I'm Tony Randall.
Welcome all of you here today. The way the format works, each candidate will have 2 minutes for an introduction, and then we will rotate through questions through each of the candidates. Candidates drew before we began today. Ms. Barnett got number 1, Ms. Cox number 2, and Ms. Randall number 3. We'll start off the first question, and the opening statements will be 1, 2, and 3. Then we rotate 2, 3, and 1, 3, 1, and 2, and we keep going throughout there until the format is concluded. And we're looking to do this within 45 minutes to an hour, so don't feel you have to hit your timing every single time if you'd like. You have 2 minutes for your intros, 1 minute for your answers, and 1 minute at your closing. In the closing, we will start in reverse order. We'll go candidate number 3, 2, and then 1. So we'll start things off with our opening statements, and Ms. Barnett, you have 2 minutes.
Again, I'm Stephanie Barnett. I grew up actually in the Air Force until I was 10 years old, and then my family, we moved to Webster, Texas in 1972. My dad was in the Air National Guard out of Ellington. I went to Webster Elementary, Webster Intermediate, graduated from Clear Creek High School in 1979. I went away to college at Southwest Texas State University in San Marcos, was in Austin for a few years after that, and I came back here in 1986 to go to law school at the University of Houston. I moved to Bay Cliff into the precinct at that time, and I've lived there ever since. I've been an attorney since 1989. I currently practice in the areas of criminal law, traffic tickets, juvenile law, and real estate law. But over the course of my career, I've practiced in almost every area of law that there is. I was a bankruptcy attorney for the first 15 years of my career. For the first 17 years of my career, I did, as well as the criminal and tickets and everything else that I do now, I did almost every kind of litigation, including consumer litigation, commercial litigation, probate, wills. I did real estate litigation, collections. I represented businesses. I represented people in between. I did a lot of indigent work. I still, to this day, I do court-appointed criminal work in Harris County and in Galveston County, and I do court-appointed juvenile work in Galveston County also. I want to be the next Justice of the Peace because I think I have a lot to give our community. Again, I'm the only candidate in the race that's an attorney. I've been a lifelong Republican. I've supported many Republican candidates over the years, and I've always voted Republican since the first time I got to vote when I was 19 years old for Ronald Reagan, and I have lived in the community for many, many years. I also have a background in the restaurant and bar business, which I was in for over 15 years. I worked in all kinds of places in the community, including Jimmy Walker's when I was in law school.
Time. Thank you, ma'am. And now we'll reset the clock and the lights, and Miss Allison Cox will have 2 minutes.
I'm Allison Cox, and I'm running for this Justice of the Peace in the newly created Precinct 1.
Ms. Cox, if you hang on real sorry, we're having a little problem with the need to turn off the lights and just get them reset. We'll reset it here. There we go. All right, now we have the green light, and you may begin. My apologies, Ms. Cox.
I am Allison Cox, and as I said, I'm running for Justice of the Peace in the newly created Precinct 1. I am currently currently a teacher in Texas City ISD. I've taught for 12 years at Heights Elementary, but I promised to give up that job to be your full-time JP. I'm running because currently the JP is not doing a full-time job. As recently as the questionnaires for the Galveston Daily News, she called it a part-time job, and also in federal court. The Office of Court Administration, though, which keeps records for all of the courts in Texas, shows us that we are getting a part-time performance. The only year that Tony Randall was on the bench, that's 2013, the case count went up almost 12%. Even though she had a dramatic dismissal docket where she dismissed over 50% of the cases that were disposed of. It will be worse in a bigger precinct. Everyone agrees that one of the most important jobs of the JP is reducing truancy. The incumbent says that truancy is down for those who participate in her program. Unfortunately, she's dismissed 86% of those truancy cases. Law enforcement everywhere in the county has endorsed me. One of the best known conservatives in the country, Ron Paul, has endorsed me. The Clear Lake Tea Party has endorsed me, as have a number of elected officials, because they know that I'm a true Republican conservative and I will do the job. I will bring back accountability and integrity to this court. I'll be your full-time JP, but only if you elect me, Allison Cox.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. And now 2 minutes for the incumbent, Tony Randall. Judge?
Hello, my name is Tony Randall. First, I would like to thank the Galveston Daily News for hosting this event and being so involved in trying to improve our community on so many different levels. I share your concerns and dedication to building a stronger Galveston County where future generations will be able to enjoy this wonderful place as much as I have over the last 5 years. I've been blessed to be a small business owner for nearly 30 years. Chemo Hardware has been my home, a part of my family. When I run your business, when you run your business during both times of economic boom and bust, you learn how to keep a budget. You learn how to work with your employees to get the best out of them as well as yourself. You know, if those experiences and those attributes that have shaped the way that I view public service and have made me an effective justice of the peace. For example, since I've taken office, working with our constables and my staff, I have reduced the backlog of cases to make this docket current. That means we're collecting the fees and the fines due to our community at an efficient pace. In fact, we have increased collections by the office, and the trend is doing nothing but going upwards for 2014. In the time that I have spent on the bench, I have made it a point to run a swift courtroom that treats people with the utmost respect, but does not let the people off the hook from their responsibilities to society. I've helped implement a truancy program that this county can be very proud of. Despite having one of the busiest dockets in the county, I've done more with less, but there's still more work to do. Moving forward, I want to see the Justice of the Peace system adopt a more uniform standard operating procedure and institute a program that puts a premium on consistency, accountability, while reducing recidivism at the same time. So I stand before you today.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate it, ladies. All right, we will now go into our question and answer portion of the program. I will ask the question, and each candidate will have 1 minute for your answer. I do point out that if I believe you have not answered the question asked and need some clarity, I do have, as the moderator's prerogative, a chance to ask you for a clarification of that. If a clarification is needed, that we could take that time off your next answer. So we'll take up 20 seconds. You could only have 40 the next time around. We haven't had to do that so far, but I just wanted to point that out. Also, if during one of your answers you make a direct attack or accusation on your opponent, we will, despite when that opponent spoke, give that opponent a time to respond to that direct accusation during that time as well, and it does not erode from their time on their answer. So we will start off in the same order we started this, and then we'll start the rotation basis. So Ms. Barnett, you will have 1 minute to answer this first question. And the question is, do you have a law license? Explain what, if any, legal experience you have. If you don't have a law license or or what type of legal experience do you have that qualifies you for this office? 1 minute, Spartan.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Yes, I have a law license. I was licensed in 1989 and had over 24 years of experience, and actually I have more than that because I worked as a law clerk for 2 years while I was in law school before I became an attorney. I had the privilege of working for a solo attorney that was also a CPA and experience working in every area of law that there was while I worked for him. I continued that on in my practice for many years, and I practiced criminal law, traffic tickets, juvenile law, real estate, and all the things I talked about before. I've had tons of experience, I won't say tons, but I've had lots of experience in litigation. I've tried civil and criminal cases at all levels in district court, county court, and at the JP court level. I have been a traffic ticket attorney for many, many years, and I worked not only in every single court in Galveston County, but just about every court in Harris County. As well as that, I've traveled out of town over the years to various other little counties. So I really have the experience in JP court. I've got the landlord-tenant experience, I've got the truancy experience, but most importantly, I've got the criminal experience.
Thank you. Same question now to Ms. Cox.
I do not have a law license. The JP Court is the court of the people. It is where ordinary people can bring their problems to those who might understand. It deals with the ordinary problems of ordinary people. It is not in the state of Texas. That is not a requirement for having for being a JP. It also provides people who might come to court with a little bit of comfort in that they are not held to really the same rules that they would be if they had to have an attorney in court. They can be a little bit more relaxed and understand that people who really can relate to them are listening to their problems. And of course, the JP court deals with smaller issues than you would find in a court where an attorney is required.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. And the same question now to Judge Randall. 1 minute.
No, I do not have a law degree. Actually, I am a high school dropout with a GED education. And I can tell you now that being the justice of the peace, I am the people's court. There is no doubt about it. I am a small business owner. I know about 60 to 70% of the people that come through that office. I understand the needs of that office. I understand the needs of our community. I have two opponents here that sit here and say that they understand the community, but not one time has either one of them stepped foot inside of my courtroom, except for Ms. Barnett when she was practicing. I believe it was twice that she was there. When you're out resolving issues, you have to do it on the fly, and you have to do it on the quickie, and you have to do it within the law. I have dealt with issues all my life. I have dealt with community for 40 years. I understand the people's needs, and I understand this community. You have to be able to work within this community. And I do that on a daily basis, and I have for over 40 years.
Time. And as the moderator's prerogative, since you had made an accusation about both your opponents here, both get a chance. I'll give you 30 seconds. Ms. Barnett, you're first.
Ms. Randall, I've been in your court more than twice. I've practiced in that court for many, many years, and I'm very aware of what goes on in that court. And I am a person of the people. As a court-appointed attorney, I represent tons of indigent people all over the place, and lots of people out in the community, and I know that community very well and the people in it myself.
And the same for you, Ms. Cox. 30 seconds.
I have not been in your court while you have been on the bench. I have been in that courtroom before and observed other judges sitting on the bench. I am a school teacher. I deal with children, and I deal with the families of children who have problems, children who go to truancy court. So I understand the problems of the people too.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. All right, next question up. And the first to get this will be Ms. Cox. Did you or do you support the consolidation of the JP and Constable precincts implemented by the County Commissioner's Court? Explain why or why not. 1 minute, ma'am.
Of course I support consolidating districts. How can you be a Republican and not support smaller government? Many people question whether it was done properly, but that's a question that probably will never be answered to everyone's satisfaction. I have friends losing jobs because of this redistricting, and I hate that part. But I think that perhaps previous administrations should have thought through a little bit more before they make this bloated government that we have. But redistricting is tough medicine to take, but necessary for more efficient, cost-effective government for the citizens.
Thank you, ma'am. Same question now to Judge Randall. 1 minute, please, ma'am.
Absolutely, I support the redistricting. One of my opponents here has claimed that I'm a part-time JP and that I have made a mockery of the justice system. I can tell you, since I've been on this court, that I have seen over 6,000, I've had over 6,000 cases that have come before me. Out of those 6,000 cases, I've resolved 6,255 of them. You do not have to be sitting on that bench all day long in order to resolve the issues of the public. You have to be out within the community, knowing your community and how to deal with it. This deal of that you have to be there sitting there 40 hours a week, that is not true. Our hours go on and on and on. We work 7 days a week in this job. I'm very proud of the job that we do, and I'm looking forward to continue to serve you for the next 4 years. And I do understand the truancy problems. I've implemented a program.
Ma'am, sorry, moderator's prerogative. The question was, did you support the JP or Constable precincts, and explain why or why not?
I did explain.
You said yes, but you got to explain why you supported it.
Yes, I do, because as I said before, I have more than enough time to take on an extra caseload. It is not a problem.
All right. Ms. Barnett.
Yes, I have supported the redistricting. Having been a lifelong Republican, I have always supported less government, not more. Actually, I ran for this position back in 1998 against Judge Foster, and at that time they were talking about redistricting, and I supported it at that time also. When the redistricting issue first came up this time around, my only concern at the time was about servicing the people of the community. Having been an attorney that represents a lot of indigent people, I know about all the transportation problems that people in the community have. And when I found out that the plan was that they were going to have 2 courts and that the judge was going to travel back and forth between the 2 courts and keep the staff, I was 100% on board. I plan to be winding down my law practice if I become the next Justice of the Peace. And as a lawyer, I learned a long time ago, you're on 24/7, there is no time off. People call you day and night, whenever, and so being the Justice of the Peace is going to be a full-time job for me, and having been an attorney, I'm a hard worker.
They are allowed to finish their sentence as long as they're not at the beginning. There you go. All right, thank you. I know it sounds a little rude. I apologize for that when I come in. All right, somewhat related to that question, it's kind of flowing into that. Now the county has consolidated the JP courts and constable's office. What specifically have you done or will you do to ensure that everyone in your precinct has access to the court? Will you, for example, operate out of more than one office at existing county locations and have staff at other locations? And on this question, Ms. Randall, you get to go first. 1 minute.
Yes, absolutely. What I've got is since I've taken office, we are now open currently 5 days a week, Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 4:30. We do work through our lunches. We are accessible. I think that when I go into the Texas City area, that office will remain open. It will remain staffed. And I will have to evaluate to see what type of cases that are coming through there. I think they have more civil. So therefore, it depends on whether we'll have cases in the morning or whether we'll have cases in the evening as far as court goes. We will be there. We will be open 5 days a week, 8:30 to 4:30 with no lunches.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And now Ms. Barnett, 1 minute.
Well, obviously, there's a need to have both the courts open in both places, and I plan to travel back and forth and hold court in both places. I'm not sure exactly now completely of the schedules with civil and traffic tickets and truancy and everything at the 2 courts, how it would all work out together, but obviously you've got to have staff at both courts to service the people during the regular business hours. Again, I've been an attorney that's never had set office hours or business hours, and I'm the Justice of the Peace. I plan to continue that practice. I've never been necessarily a 9 to 5 person. Sometimes I'm up and going early at 7, and sometimes I might be there till 6 or 7 at night. And I plan to be that accessible as the Justice of the Peace. I also live just not even 5 minutes from the courthouse in Bay Cliff, and I live about 15 minutes from the court in Texas City. So if I'm needed to come in and address warrants or those types of issues, I'll be able to get there fairly quickly to take care of that.
Thank you, ma'am. And same question now to Ms. Cox.
Of course, I would keep up. I'm glad to hear that both offices are going to be open. They will be fully staffed as long as commissioners allow that. It's important that we have access to the courts because local Texas tradition demands local JP courts, and access to the court is not just to the building, it's access to the judge. The judge is the court. It's very important to be available. My phone number will be available, has been published for years, and will be available to everyone who needs it. And I will be available around the clock to sign warrants and to deal with issues that come up in the court.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, next question. And we're back at the starting line over here, I believe. With that, and this question is somewhat related to that. If elected, what will your hours be? Meaning, as a judge, how many hours a week will you work? What hours will you be in the office? And will the office be open on Fridays? Y'all have each touched on this, but this is about not your staff, about you directly. And all right here, yes, we're back at the start here now. Ms. Barnett, 1 minute.
I was going to say, well, it will be kind of a change for me because of the fact that I haven't ever been really a 9-to-5 person, but I plan to be there all day, every day, back and forth between the two courts, and obviously I'll be accessible earlier in the morning if necessary, and definitely after hours and on weekends. That's been the kind of attorney that I've always been, and that's the type of JP I plan to be. You know, the justice of the peace is a judge of the people, and I want to be there for the people. That's part of why I'm running for this position. I've served people for many, many, many years in the community as an attorney, and now I want to serve them as their justice of the peace. And it's important to me to always accommodate people in their schedules and be as accessible as possible.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Cox, same question to you. 1 minute for your answer.
I will have regular office hours. I can't tell you exactly which hours I will be at which office now until we work that schedule out, but I will have regular office hours, and I will imagine that I will be there before the office opens and stay until after. It will be necessary to travel back and forth, but that's not a very far trip. I'm used to keeping regular hours. I've been a school teacher, and I'm also used to keeping after hours because I've been worked in the professional music scene. I have taught private music lessons, and I have children and grandchildren who have issues and activities on weekends, and I'm used to putting my life kind of on hold for everybody else.
All right, thank you, ma'am. So, there's someone's phone here buzzing. Sorry about that. It's all right. You did have the ringer off, so that's good. You did follow the rules there, Ms. Burnett. All right, Ms. Randall, Judge Randall, your turn. 1 minute.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. You know, if this is specifically about the hours you would keep, not the offices would keep, what hours will you work? Will they be normal work hours? And will you be working on all days, including Fridays? This is about your personal work schedule and not that of staff. And will you be in the office every work day of the week?
Yes, I will be, as I am now. I travel back and forth from my office in Kemah to the courts. I'm available by my phone 24/7. You will see me at Kemah Hardware on the weekends working at night. You will also see me up at the JP court at night working. This job does not require you to be sitting in the courtroom day in and day out from 8:30 to 4:30. Again, there are community meetings that you must attend. You have nighttime meetings that you attend. You have weekend events that you must attend. I can't tell you, there's so many different types of meetings that you go to, but to sit there in the court waiting for your constituents to come up to you, for starters, you can't be having a conversation with them because that's just not right. They are there to see your staff get their things in order so that they can come before you on the bench. You don't want to be having a private conversation one-on-one with one defendant or one plaintiff there.
Time. Thank you, ladies. All right, next question up, and this first one will be going to Ms. Cox. We get the answer first here. In your opinion, should the primary focus of the constables be to serve the justice of the peace court? What percentage of their time should be spent on serving the court as compared to serving in a law enforcement capacity? Ms. Cox.
The constables are all required to be certified law enforcement officers, certified peace officers. Their main job in this duty is to serve the papers of the court, but in that, they get to know their area, and they get to know the people, and that's a very important part of law enforcement. That makes them very valuable to other law enforcement agencies when the need arises. Of course, their time in the court would be dependent on what is happening in the court, and percentage would be hard to nail down right now.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Randall?
Yes, I work quite closely with the Constable Rick Sharp as it is now. I have no issues with how he serves his papers, and he handles his responsibilities to the courts first. If they have leftover time, then they're out within the community doing whatever it is they do. I'm busy running my own court, and I don't really run over and check up to see what he's doing. He's been elected by the people to serve the people, and the people need to hold him accountable. Like I said, he is taking care of my court. I have no issues whatsoever. He does it like he's supposed to, and there's not much else I can say to that.
All right. We get everybody that's on the room. Just want to make sure not to do it. You're next, correct? Okay, go ahead.
No.
Yeah, say that question.
Well, a constable's primary duty has always been to serve papers for the courts, and they don't serve just for the Justice of the Peace Court. They serve for all types of lawsuits that are out there. You can have a case in district court or county court, and you use the constable to serve it. In my own personal experience as an attorney, I've normally preferred to use the constable's office for service because they seem to do a really good job. They do a good job on following up with you, and they do it in a timely manner. Now, having said that, part of their job is to also be the bailiff for the court, and so, yes, they need to serve some time for the court and be available when court's in session. And I guess there's probably a deputy that's actually designated throughout the day, because you never know when you might have somebody from the community come in and, even though court's not in session, try to raise a ruckus. I've actually seen it happen when I've been there at the courthouse myself, dropping papers off with the clerks. As far as law enforcement duties, I've never had a problem with the constables beyond their scope of when they get done serving and servicing the court, helping out.
Thank you, ma'am. Somewhat related to that, because there will be about a 2-year gap between consolidation of the JP courts and of the constables themselves before their election up. So in many ways, you have 2 constables serving your office. How are you going to handle that balance, at least until their elections are up in a couple of years? And I believe Ms. Cox, you were first last time, so it's Ms. Randall, you first.
Well, again, I'm not in charge of the constable. That is an elected position, and I can't believe that the constable would not continue to serve the court in Texas City just as he's doing today.
Well, and the question more is, how are you going to manage the workflow? Who gets what and the like? Is if it's Texas City, will it go there?
Well, in order to make it convenient for the constable's office and for the residents, the constable that is there now will continue to serve that particular area, and the constable that is here in the Bayshore area will continue to serve the Bayshore area.
Good, thank you, Judge. Ms. Barnett?
I agree with Judge Randall on that the constables during that period should probably just continue to serve the areas that they've served in the past, because that's where they're most comfortable with and what they're familiar with. Now, that's not to say that since it is going to be just one Justice of the Peace Court, that if there were a need for one situation come up in one area or not in the other, that they could kind of try to coordinate together and work together, and their deputies work together. But I think the easiest way will be, again, because they are elected officials and have their own separate staffs, to just continue to work in the areas that they're working now.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ms. Cox?
The constables are elected in a particular area, and until their term is up, that is the area that they should be serving. And I'm sure, though, that they are quite willing to cooperate across the board if needed to go to another area. But I would imagine that the constable from Texas City would serve that area, and or precinct, what is now precinct 5, would serve that area, and the constable for precinct 7 would serve this area.
Gotcha. Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it. All right, next up. Since this is a party primary election, can't escape the politics of everything, explain your voting history. Have you ever voted in the Democratic Party primary? These are all Republicans running here. If so, how often and how long have you consistently voted in the primary for the Republican Party, which is the office you are seeking the nomination? And we start off, we're back at the top again, Ms. Barnett.
Well, I first became a Republican, or considered myself a Republican, when I was in high school in my government class, and my teacher put up on the board the differences between what were Democrats and Republicans. The first time I got to vote was when I was 19 years old. I was a sophomore in college in San Marcos. I sent off, of course I grew up in Webster, I sent off for my ballot, and I voted for Ronald Reagan. I didn't really know about primaries then. I learned about them maybe not too long after that. Since then, I've voted in every single Republican primary, which in Galveston County, having lived here since 1986, was at times a challenge when you're a lawyer and all the judges are running were Democrats, but I still went out to my Republican primary and voted Republican.
And same question, 1 minute for your answer, Ms. Cox.
I was raised in a Republican household. My father was a World War II veteran, and he was wounded in the Battle of the Bulge. And he always believed in and taught us to fight for a strong military, fiscal responsibility, family values, the sanctity of life, and a strong legal system, which are values that Republicans hold dear. As a lifelong Republican, I've campaigned for Republicans, but I must admit, once voted for a family member, who shall remain nameless, in a Democratic primary. But since then, I have always voted Republican.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. And Judge Randall, you have 1 minute.
Yes, I've voted in the Republican primary for the last several elections. I can tell you that I went for many years that I did not vote. Does not mean that I did not have true Republican values. You can't be a small business owner like I've been and not be a Republican. I'm sorry, we're Main Street America. And I can tell you that I wholeheartedly support the principles of the Republican Party. Not only do I support it financially, but I live it and I practice the Republican way every day.
Thank you very much, ladies. All right, one last question before you get your closing statements. A big sigh coming from the table to the right of me now. It's a pretty softball one. We'll give you a little easy one here at the end. What is your vision for the future of the county's JP court system? What changes would you advocate and why, and how would you go about to help implement them? And as we had said at the beginning, we'll be doing our closing statements, I should say, backwards, but this first question up is for Ms. Cox.
I look forward to moving into kind of the 21st century with the JP system. I think that we need to go online with online access to the court's records. That will open up possibilities for people to check the status of their cases. Right now, you have to, deputies, if they're looking for someone, has to check all 9 JP courts to find out where they are, or if they have a case someplace else. And it will lead to a more responsive court system and better performance of the officials too, because it will hold everybody a little bit more accountable with more open vision.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Randall.
I'm going to ask you to repeat the question.
Sure. What is your vision for the JP court system in Galveston County, and what changes, if any, would you advocate, and why, and how would you implement those?
Well, it's evident that we need a better uniformed operating system. We're not all on the same page as I would like to think that we are, or maybe that the Commissioner's Court talks about. We all have different ways that we run our courts. I think it's important that we are on it electronically. I would like to see us have more conversations than what we have. You know, this court is about the people, and we have to be sure that we all reach the people and that we're all accessible to the people. I go back to the People's Court with no attorneys, sitting up on the bench because they're looking for swift justice. We need to keep these dockets moving along. And again, we need to worry about collecting the money that is sitting out there on the table that has never been addressed. That's one of the things that I would like to have discussed tonight was, in my court, we have over $1.2 million, and it needs to be collected. I wonder
And anything you felt you didn't get to talk about, you'll get 1 minute to do it here, because this is your closing statements. Again, the only rule will be that if you do make an accusation against one of your opponents, we will give them a chance to respond. We will be going in reverse order with our closing statements. So Judge Randall, you get to go first. 1 minute, ma'am.
Already? Man, I was just getting going.
Did I? Oh, my apologies, honey. I don't know why I keep doing that with you, Stephanie. I did this the other night too. I have the handy sheet and it's not doing me any good here. That's what journalists and math just don't work together. My apologies. You have a little extra time now, Judge Randall. Go ahead, Stephanie. My apologies to you.
Again, having been a traffic ticket attorney for many years and worked in many of the justice of the peace courts, I agree that we've got to move up with modernization and a more accessible system for online access to finding out about what's going on with tickets. I can't tell you how frustrating it is when I have someone come in my office and they say, well, I've got a bunch of tickets, but I don't know where they are. And I have to, of course, you've got the Omni-based system with failure to appear, but beyond that, you have to kind of start going through this hunt and find system. It'd be great if all the courts were connected together and you could just go online and find out what people have got and where they've got it. They do have that kind of system in Harris County and it's wonderful. The other thing is, I think it's really important, I'd like to see these courts be a place where people could really get their civil cases heard in a way, in a fair way, that they know that they're getting a ruling that's in accordance with the law, and that they know they don't have to appeal to the higher courts, because it's a lot cheaper for people to file in JP court than it is in county and district court.
Thank you, ma'am. My apologies again to you as well, almost skipping over you again. All right. Again, 1 minute for closing statements. You can touch on any subject you wish. I know, Judge, you said you wanted to catch on something, so feel free to do so. You have 1 minute, ma'am.
Well, first, I'd like to say thank you again to the Galveston Daily News for hosting this forum, and thank you for the audience for your participation and turning in your questions. You came here today in search of answers to some very important questions. And like you, before I decided to seek another term of Justice of the Peace, I had to seek the same answers to some very important questions of my own. Did I do all I could to improve the office? Did I make the office more efficient and accountable? And did I administer justice in a way that is swift and focused on results? Friends, I can stand here before you today and answer those questions with an unequivocal yes. I've reduced the backload of cases, made the docket current, I've increased collections by the office, and I run a truancy program that this county can be proud of. I've done all this while remaining accountable to you and true to my conservative principles. I'm asking for the opportunity to continue to serve you, to continue building upon the great work we've already done in this county.
Time.
And
Thank you, ma'am. And Ms. Cox, you get 1 minute.
Well, reports from the Office of Court Administration tell us that this court is not running smoothly. Instead of moving the docket's increased from over 15,000 cases to over 17,000 cases in 1 year. And that's in spite of dismissing or defaulting over 57% of its entire total cases. Of the 4,000 criminal cases disposed of in 2013, 53% were just dismissed. Of the 103 parents contributing to truancy cases disposed of, over 86% were just dismissed. And of 1,000 civil cases disposed of, over 72% were just dismissed or defaulted. In spite of what Judge Randall says to the federal judge, this is more than a part-time job. I will bring everyday work habits, politeness, and judicial temperament to every person who comes. I will hold parents and students accountable. I will not be their friend. That's not the job. I will be their judge. Finally, you'll get a full day's work for a full day's pay from me, but only if you vote.
And Judge Randall, as you get a chance now, since they were direct accusations made to you, you have 30 seconds to respond if you wish to do so, but they have to be to the direct accusations, please, ma'am.
Well, it appears to me that maybe my opponent is either ill-informed or doesn't understand how to read the OCA report. The 17,000 that she is referring to, yeah, that's an increase, but that's because I'm working old cases. Of course it's going to go up. It's not going to go down. You never stop receiving cases. I've pulled 2,000 cases that have been on the bench, that have been in the back room for 15 years waiting to be collected. Of course the number is going to go up. Why would it?
All right, ma'am. Thank you very much. And Ms. Barnett, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
I'm the only candidate in this race that's an attorney and that actually has the qualifications and the experience for the job. Everybody keeps talking about that this is a judge for the people. I am a person of the people. Part of my background, the 15 years that I spent in the bar and restaurant business, I spent that time connecting with real people out there. I worked at all kinds of places. I worked at small places. I worked at big places. I have been an attorney that's an attorney of the people. I've devoted my career to representing indigent defendants, and I've also devoted it to providing lower cost legal services for everybody out there, for those people that couldn't afford the big expensive attorneys. As that, I am out in the community all the time. I know all kinds of people. I know these people. I've represented them in traffic tickets, in criminal cases, in family cases, in civil cases. I've represented business people. I've represented the little bitty person out there. There is not one other candidate out there that's a person of the people like me. And with this bigger increased precinct, you really need a judge that knows what they're doing.
Time. Thank you, ma'am. Ladies, thank you all again. Please give a hand to our candidates. Ladies and gentlemen. I do it in about 15 minutes. We will have the candidates for district attorney up here, followed by the state rep 23 candidates. Just a quick reminder before, if you hold up here, folks. First, we want to thank College of the Mainland for allowing us to host this here today. The League City Chamber of Commerce for their assistance, the Texas City Lamar Chamber of Commerce for their assistance, and our sponsor, Amico Federal Credit Union. And our next forum will be in about 15 minutes. Thank you.
Barbara, how are you doing? I always like seeing you. That's the only reason I like seeing you, Barbara. Yeah, man, I'll put on the window. Got the rhythm going. We're fine now. You're fine.
Ladies, thank y'all.
How's he doing?
Good to see you. Proud of you.
Sir? Good yourself?
Congratulations.
How are y'all doing? I'm good. Greg Griffin, nice to meet you. Want to say hello? How are you?
Yeah, no, they'll. Can I ask that the candidates for district attorney please come up here? The candidates for district attorney please come up. Me, never. You're good.
Hey, Bruce. Hey, I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. That'll be Yes, he was going to be at the doctor, so we can get in here.
I was thinking.
And then the carnival, so you have those 4,000 people, you have our 3,000.
Yeah, but because I'm in the organization, I'm on the flies kind of weekend, and I don't stay down after party class, so it's too long. Yeah.
36.
It doesn't close down, and the bars don't close too, and lots of and they forget that.
Thank you.
So I was out there.
Once it's over,
with being fed. My understanding it should be
Galveston Daily News website.
No, it's really just a software. That
Last one, yeah. What software are you using? Ustream.
From my understanding, it's right. However, it is.
Are you hooked into the college internet? I mean, the college server thing?
Yeah.
I'm not too certain.
It's not going over cable channels.
It's not yet. That's a good question. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'll get you an answer about it.
So who's this on the front row up here? Hey, Gina, Larry Taylor. They make us sit up here? Oh, okay. You're an official job. Nice to see you. Y'all have a good evening.
I'm actually looking forward to standing at Colorado State after dark.
Hi, how are you?
Ready?
How'd you go?
They're doing that.
And so I'm running for bench. And hopefully I can get probably going to go for 5 years.
Yeah.
That's a really just a volunteer. I'm going to be very honest with all of you.
Not exactly a talent show.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll get going with our next forum in about 3 minutes. You go ahead and get to your seats. We'll be starting in about 3 minutes. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and have you take your seats, please. We're going to be going in 30 seconds. 30 seconds till the next forum. Thank you. Yeah, my yellow light. I'm kidding, Richie.
I was.
I just figured maybe get you a little practice here and get here for the day. You did good. You did good, both of you. Good teamwork over there on the clock. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the College of the Mainland's Learning Resource Center. We are glad to have you out here today for the second of our 4 forums sponsored by the Galveston County Daily News. We had just a little while ago the candidates for Justice of the Peace Precinct 1. Our next forum up will be the candidates for the district attorney in the Republican primary. There is no Democrat Libertarian running, so the vote in this primary will decide the victor in that race. As we have done in each of our forums, though, I'd like to first bring up for a few kind words our president and publisher of the Galveston County Daily News, the largest and oldest media outlet in Galveston County, Mr. Leonard Woolsey. Leonard?
Thank you, TJ. Thank you for everybody being here today. This is an exciting event. This is the second of our series. I'm glad you've come out in the changing cold weather for us. But this is a very important part of what we do in democracy. We get together with the candidates, we answer questions, we listen, we sit back, and we make some decisions about how we're going to cast our vote. So I commend you all for being here today. I ask you to listen intently, think of questions for yourself, and when you do make that final step, when you make that decision for democracy, you'll be an informed voter. So thank you all. God bless you.
Thank you, Leonard. First up, a couple of housekeeping notes. For those of you who haven't figured it out yet, if you need to take a break to the facilities, they are located outside in the cold. You have to go around the edges out there. Also, how many of you have your mobile phones out here? Can you hold them up for me, please, so I can see them? Can you show me you turning them off? Please, or turn them on vibrate. Candidates, I would ask up here if you would have them actually off during the forum up here during that time. So everyone all set on that. All right. This is the forum for the district attorney candidates. As I mentioned, they're both in the Republican primary. The winner of this will, barring a last-minute independent or run-in or write-in candidate, I'm just scared both of them here. They won't know what information I may have. The winner of this primary will be the next district attorney for Galveston County. The rules are pretty simple. Each candidate drew before we started. Mr. Rohde drew first, Mr. Morris drew second. We will be rotating throughout questions, but we will start off with our opening statements. Each candidate gets 2 minutes. And then when we start asking questions, we will rotate between who gets to answer the question first all the way through until we're done. 1 minute each, and then 1 minute each on closing. As we have done in each of our forums, if one of the candidates makes a direct accusation, they don't have to mention them by name, by the way, against their opponent, I have the prerogative to be able to give that other person a chance to respond, a 30-second response time. We do have up front, our Regina and Michelle are running our lovely timing system up here. The green light for candidates, that means that's the time you're talking. When you see that yellow light, you have 30 seconds to wrap up, and the red light means you need to stop. I'll let you finish the sentence, but once you hear my voice come in, that's it for you as well. If at any time during your answers, I don't think you have clearly answered or directly answered the question asked of you, it is the moderator's prerogative to go ahead and ask you for clarification. That time used for that clarification could be taken away from your next answer, just so you know that throughout. So please stick with your answers to the questions. We did our pledge, by the way, for those who came in later, we already did the pledges to the United States flag and the Texas flag earlier, so we won't be repeating those. But we will start off with our opening statements now, each 2 minutes. And Jack Rohde, well, first let me introduce our candidates here. The incumbent, Jack Rohde. And his challenger, Philip Morris. And now we do have our opening statements. Mr. Rohde drew first, so Jack, you're 2 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jack Rohde, your district attorney, elected in 2010, and I am running for re-election. I am married to my wife, Nisha. We live in Santa Fe. We recently celebrated 20 years of marriage. We have 4 outstanding teenage children, 2 of which attend collegiate high school here. I am a career prosecutor. It is what I've always done as a lawyer. Before I was elected in 2010, having lived in Galveston County for over 20 years, I served at the Harris County DA's office as an assistant DA there. I started in the trial bureau there, trying cases. Then I moved over to our appellate division, where I continued to represent the state of Texas on appeal, making sure those convictions were not overturned. I have handled everything from misdemeanors to felonies to death penalty cases on appeal, having seen 8 death penalty appeals all the way through to execution, so I know the full process of that. Growing up as a prosecutor, what we wanted in our elected DA was really just one thing, to make sure that that person was committed to doing the right thing no matter what. When I came into office, I carried that vision to the office so that our office is committed to doing the right thing as well. We focus on doing justice. That's what a prosecutor does. That's what we've committed the office to do, and I know the results will take care of themselves, and our record has proven that. And I'll be addressing that more, and I thank you all so much for coming out this evening.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Morris, 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Good evening. I really appreciate the opportunity to come out here and tell you a little bit about myself today. My name is Philip Morris. I'm a proud U.S. Air Force veteran and a retired Galveston Police Commander. I live in League City. I've been a resident of Galveston County since 1981. Me and my wife, Heather, have 5 children between us from age 29 down to 13. I've been in Galveston County, like I said, since 1981. And when I went to law school, I did an internship with the Galveston County District Attorney's Office, where I had some experience in doing intake, working on plea agreements and preparing cases for trial and actually trying cases during my internship. I went to the University of Houston Law Center, where I graduated in 2002, and I did this while I was still working with the Galveston Police Department. When I retired in 2008, I opened up a small law office in Friendswood, where I still practice family and criminal law today. So I have, in addition to my experience in law enforcement and as an attorney, I have the experience of being a small business owner in a quite successful office. My background in law enforcement and criminal law, along with my leadership and management experience, makes me the most qualified candidate for this position. I'm the only candidate with real experience dealing with taking up crime from the time it's first been reported and working through an investigation until it's prosecuted in the trials, and I've testified in numerous felony and misdemeanor trials. And I'm endorsed by the Galveston Municipal Police Association and the Santa Fe Police Officers Association. I want to use my knowledge and experience as your next district attorney, and I ask for your vote and your support in the March 4th primary.
Thank you very much. All right, gentlemen, we start our questions. Again, we will start with Mr. Rohde and Mr. Morrison, and we'll be rotating who gets to answer first as we go. First question up. You may have touched on this a little bit in your intro, but we'll give you a little more time. Explain your legal experience, how much criminal law, civil law, and how much of the time have you either spent as a prosecutor or as a defense attorney? And Mr. Rohde, you're first. 1 minute.
Thank you. Being a prosecutor is all I have ever done since I've become a lawyer. I worked my way through undergrad and law school. I interned at the Harris County DA's office for 2 years before being sworn in, the last class of prosecutors sworn in by Johnny Holmes. I tried cases for 1.5 years. I spent the next 8.5 years there representing the state on appeal, as I mentioned. I've had the full range of experience as a prosecutor, from the misdemeanor cases in county court to the felony trials, to felony appeals and death penalty cases. Since being elected as your district attorney, we tried the first death penalty case in Galveston County since 1995. I am a proponent of that as the ultimate punishment in the appropriate case. That's the kind of district attorney you need to have in the office, someone with that full range of experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rohde. All right, same question to you, Mr. Morris. 1 minute.
Thank you. I graduated from the University of Houston Law Center in 2002, as I said, and I got licensed in 2003, and at the time I was still an employee with the City of Galveston Police Department. So I didn't do any criminal law because of the conflict there, but I did some family law and some civil law during that time frame. And I didn't start practicing full-time until 2008 when I retired, at which time I started criminal defense and family law. I have experience in both trials in criminal and family law, as well as civil cases, which I try to stay away from as much as I can. But my real experience comes in the trial. It has to do with my experience in law enforcement, having been able to testify in the prosecution in many cases. So I have a lot of experience when it comes to that. But that's the basis of my legal experience there.
Thank you both. All right, this next question, Mr. Morris, you'll be first up to answer. What's your view on the death penalty? What is the deciding factor in the decision to seek a death sentence, and how do you approach a death case?
Well, I do support the death penalty for capital punishment or capital crimes. And I think that that's a highly sensitive issue within our society right now and very emotional. But I don't know that you could pin it down to any one deciding factor. There's numerous factors that probably should be considered, such as the egregiousness of the crime, the impact that it has on society, what are the opportunities or the chances that that person may harm society again. And then I think we got to look at the physical and scientific evidence before we can make that decision.
Thank you, sir. Same question to you, Mr. Rhodey. 1 minute to answer.
I am in favor of the death penalty, and it should be sought in the appropriate case. Every case stands on its own. You can't just classify an entire category as eligible for the death penalty. As prosecutors, we have a duty to seek justice, and that means doing the right thing for the right reason. In death penalty cases, that means looking at a variety of factors: the offense, the defendant's background, whether he's going to be a future danger, and any mitigating factors. Those are all factors that the U.S. Supreme Court has mandated that we as prosecutors consider and be able to prove in court. It is the ultimate punishment and should be taken with the most serious of cases. I'm committed to doing that. We've done it already, and we will stay committed to doing it in the appropriate cases.
Thank you very much. Next question up, and Mr. Rhodey, you'll get this first. Is there a turnover problem within the District Attorney's Office in Galveston County? If so, what can be done about it? Or, if not, what is the reality of the length of tenure for those in the office?
There is not a turnover problem at the District Attorney's Office. When I came in, a lot of folks said that I should come in and clean house, but I didn't do that. I made the decision to keep everybody and judge them based upon their character and their performance and ability. Best decision I ever made. First year, we had a 10% turnover rate. Second year, 10%. This last year, we had around 30%. Exit interviews showed that folks were leaving because they needed to take care of their families. They needed better salaries that we in the public sector can't provide when competing with the private sector. In response to that, I went to Commissioner's Court, worked with them, and we got better salaries for our senior prosecutors, which has essentially ended folks leaving the office. Considering the first 3 years of my term of office, we have been able to reduce turnover by 29% compared to the previous administration. The office is stable, robust, and producing good results for Galveston County.
Thank you very much, sir. Same question to you, Mr. Morris.
Yes, I believe there is a serious problem with the turnover rate at the District Attorney's Office, and I believe it's a result of a lack of leadership, a lack of morale, and a lack of career development. I think the first thing that we need to do is to change the management at the top. If you want to make effective change in the organization, you need to do it from the top. The other thing we need to do is we need to recruit, train, and retain quality prosecutors at the District Attorney's Office, and I think what that's going to entail is providing some additional training to the prosecutors, especially management leadership training to the prosecutors who are acting also as supervisors within a particular court. And finally, we need to provide a career enhancement and career development track for the prosecutors. I have a plan that will involve implementing an intermediate supervisory position to the District Attorney's Office, and I think we'll deal with those issues.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Morris, you'll get this question first. How would you go about making sure the public has a better idea of what's going on in the criminal courts and the District Attorney's Office in Galveston County? 1 minute, sir.
Well, I think that our society has become very adept to social media, so I think that social media has to be one of the things that we work on. And I think another thing that we have to do is we have to be able to put some of the details of some of the most important cases that we're prosecuting or that are in trial online for the public to see. And I know that a lot of courts and district attorneys' offices throughout the country are starting to do some taping of the trials that are going on so that people can see that there's being video streamed. And I think those are probably pretty good ideas in cases that are appropriate for that to happen in. And we just need to be out here and be transparent to the public. I think the public want to know exactly how we're prosecuting these cases, which cases we're prosecuting, and what the outcomes of those cases are.
Thank you, sir. Same question to you, Mr. Rhodey. 1 minute, please. Could you repeat the question? Yes. What would you do to increase transparency within the DA's office to better inform the public about what's going on within the criminal courts in Galveston County and the District Attorney's Office?
Great. Okay, the courts have actually come a long way with Commissioner's Court and the clerk's offices about putting information about pending cases available online. Once a charge is filed and certainly once a case is tried, that information is available to the public. The sticking point a lot of times comes with cases that are under investigation. As prosecutors, we are ethically prohibited from discussing the details of pending investigations, sometimes even acknowledging that, and that is to protect the innocence of someone who may not deserve to be charged with a crime. So a lot of times as a prosecutor, you have to be careful with what you say, not because you're trying to hide something, but because you're trying to protect somebody's reputation, give them the due process that they're entitled to. In those cases, it's most important to know that you have an elected district attorney who's committed to doing the right thing. And even when you can't get the inside baseball story, you know that the person at the top has the right motives, isn't influenced by politics, and is maintaining an independent district attorney's office that you can trust. And that's who I have been and will be for.
Time, sir. Thank you very much. Next question up, and Ms. Rhodey, you'll get this first. Should the district attorney personally prosecute certain cases, including high-profile cases, or should the district attorney stay with the role primarily as an administrator? Mr. Rhodey.
It has always been my position that the elected district attorney should put the best prosecutor on the right case. I've never taken the position that I'm the best trial prosecutor in the office, but I do have some of the best trial prosecutors in the state of Texas. And when we get serious cases, we put those prosecutors on it. It is not the elected's job to make headlines, to be on the front page of the paper. It's to run the office, to set the vision for the office, and to back his people. At the same time, it's not just an administrator job. You have to have someone who has been through the full course and scope of misdemeanors to felonies to death penalty cases. And the elected DA has to be intimately involved with the most serious of cases so that he can be ready to step in when time requires it, step into the courtroom, into the appellate courts to deal with those cases. That's the kind of district attorney I've been for you, and that's who I will continue to be.
All right, same question for you, Mr. Morris. 1 minute, please, sir.
I think that the primary role of the district attorney is to provide leadership and management and a vision statement and a mission statement to the prosecutors. I think the high-profile cases are very complex and they require a prosecutor, more often than not, a team of prosecutors to put a lot of time and effort into the cases. And I think it would be too difficult for the district attorney to step in and take those cases once the case is going along. What the district attorney has to do, though, is he has to be able to step in to provide those resources, whether it be material or additional manpower to prosecute those cases successfully. And they should establish a management team that can help the prosecutors by doing that. The district attorney is essentially the managing partner of the largest law firm in the county, and as such, he needs to have the knowledge and the experience in order to put a management team together that can support the prosecutors to successfully prosecute cases.
Thank you, sir. And next question up, Mr. Morris, you'll get this first, and 1 minute each on your answer. Do you believe that the district attorney's office needs to expand the number of investigators it has to help out with the attorneys in the office to work cases? And why? 1 minute.
Absolutely. I think that too often that some of the cases that come to the prosecution or to the district attorney's office may have some more investigation that needs to be conducted on those. And a lot of times we rely on kicking those cases back to the law enforcement agency from which the case originally came from. And I think that what that does is that adds too much time to the investigative process, and I think it also delays these cases being true-billed or indicted and sent into the court. So I think that just expanding the process. I would like to see the investigators' positions expanded to help with the courts, and I think that probably there needs to be an investigator for each of the courts.
All right, sir. And same question to you, Mr. Rhodes.
As the district attorney, I would love to have more investigators and more prosecutors. Compared to surrounding counties of population and caseload, we actually are disproportionately low in the number of investigators we have on our staff. However, there are a lot of needs that our offices face. And as a conservative elected leader in this county, I also have to be very mindful of how we use your resources, your tax dollars. It's always been a need, but it was not a priority that I placed when I came into office. Over the last 3 years, I have gone to Commissioner's Court and asked for an additional investigator, and they allowed us that position. It has helped us tremendously. Down the road, I expect that we'll be making a similar request, but we have proceeded cautiously because I'm mindful of the fact that we have to run lean and efficient dealing with your tax dollars.
Thank you, sir. All right, Ms. Rhodes, you'll get this question first. The district attorney's office does have a public integrity unit. Is that really needed in Galveston County? And how would you rate its performance and its outcome? Mr. Rody, 1 minute.
We very much need a public integrity unit. When I came into office, there was a tremendous backlog of public integrity-related allegations that had been filed and were pending with the office. We put resources on those as quickly as we could. Some of those cases, we actually called for help from the Attorney General's office and from an outside district attorney's office because the load was so great, or there was a perceived conflict of interest. To preserve the public's trust in the office, it was best suited to have those cases go out. Cases that we got help with the Attorney General's office and another DA's office came at no additional cost to the county. We continue to have the high volume of complaints. Public integrity is the citizen's sole access to justice when every other door has been closed. It is essential that that division stay in the office, that it stay as a specialized division with the training that's required. Otherwise, as those cases just get lost in the regular trial dockets competing for attention with hundreds of other cases, that's the sure way to see a public integrity complaint swept under the rug or lost, is by dispersing that into the regular caseload. We'll keep it.
Time. Mr. Moore, same question to you. 1 minute, please, sir.
Well, the public's confidence in its public servants and its elected officials is extremely important to me. However, the few cases that have come up, the majority of those have been assigned to special prosecutors at taxpayer expense and not assigned to the public integrity unit. And several of those assignments have even been criticized as being more political than not. In one particular case, a special prosecutor at taxpayer expense was working for the district attorney's office with a suspended law license. Working with a suspended law license is a crime in the state of Texas. That matter was never assigned to the public integrity unit. So accountability should start with the district attorney's office. If you do not use your public integrity unit to investigate one of your own, then you only have a public integrity unit name only. No person should be given special treatment, and the prosecutor should have the ability to prosecute any case that comes to the court. Public integrity is not just the responsibility of one person assigned to a public integrity unit. It's the responsibility of all the prosecutors in the office.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. And since you did talk about the current administration of its handling of a particular case, Mr. Rody, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to respond to those direct accusations.
Thank you, TJ. The case that my opponent speaks of involves an attorney that had long worked with the Galveston County District Attorney's Office to handle special prosecutions in the county. He was well known in the county, had a great reputation, and had done this for years. I'll tell you, it never occurred to me that I would need to go and check his bar history. It turns out he did have some problems. As a result of that, we've changed the way we handle special prosecutions. We no longer use attorneys from within the county. We've developed relationships with other district attorneys' offices so they can come in, investigate cases just like that at no additional cost.
Thank you very much. Now, this goes into, actually your answer and this subject goes into what was going to be our next question anyway, so you both get to expand a little bit more on there. One of the cases, there are two specific cases involving high-profile elected officials or a member of their family. Each case was handed off to a special prosecutor. Is this the best way to handle such cases? Why or why not? And I do believe this time around it's to you first, right, Philip?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't have cases that are assigned to a special prosecutor, because there may be times when there may be a perceived conflict at the district attorney's office that needs to be done. I don't think that we're utilizing that right, though, very well, and I think it's the methodology that I have a problem with. I don't really think that the district attorney's office should be able to pick and choose which special prosecutors that they use, because then that takes away from the idea that it's there's no bias involved, there's no politicalism involved. In fact, what I believe that they should do is there's an association that most county and district attorneys belong to, and I believe they should partner with them in either a memo of understanding or some type of mutual aid compact, to where they can call upon that organization to provide a special prosecutor, so we don't know who it is that's coming in. And that can be done where we're providing services and other counties providing services locally, so that we make sure that we take away any idea that there's any political favoritism or any bias in those investigations.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rody, you have 1 minute, sir.
Well, my opponent criticizes me for using special prosecutors, but then won't answer the question about whether you should. It is important, it's imperative that the public's trust in the district attorney's office be maintained when someone is accused of a crime who is either connected to the district attorney's office, a friend of the DA, or has some economic or political influence. Because however that case turns out, Y'all need to know that it was handled appropriately. That's why we use special prosecutors. Not every public integrity case goes to special prosecutor, very few do. In those cases, maintaining your trust is the most important. And the idea of going to the association, have other DA's offices come in, that's exactly what we did. That's the first thing I did when I took office. When one of our senior prosecutors was accused of a crime, I went to our association where I serve on the finance committee, by the way. They sent somebody from way outside our jurisdiction down to handle that case at no cost to Galveston County taxpayers. And that's what we will continue to do to preserve the reputation and integrity of the office.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, Mr. Rhodey, you get this question first. And how would you rate the public defense system within Galveston County? Should the county be looking at a way to go to a public defender's office, or stick with the system as it is, or some other system? Mr. Rhodey, 1 minute.
I think, as with any form of government, the appointment of attorneys to represent defendants carries the full range of performance issues. We have some phenomenal court-appointed defense attorneys, and we have some attorneys that are on the list who frankly aren't that great. You're going to have that anywhere. You're going to have that in any legal system. There is always room for improvement. Harris County recently set up a public defender system for Harris County, and it's something that we should consider. The Commissioner's Court within the last year has retained a consulting firm to examine the way we handle our criminal justice system here in the county, and I look forward to working with them. That may be a possibility that we should explore.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Moore, same question to you, 1 minute.
I think the public defender system that we currently have in place is actually costing way more money than it should. I really do agree with Mr. Rhodey on the particular fact that we probably should either, the county commissioner should look at creating a public defender unit and having paid employees that do that kind of work, or we should probably contract that out to some law firms that have enough lawyers to where they can handle the caseload. But there's just too many cases. There are some good, there's too many cases to be had, and there are a lot of good defense attorneys that are on the court-appointed list, but it's just a hit and miss. And I always have people call me all the time and say, I was given a court-appointed attorney, and I don't think they'll do a good job when there actually is good court-appointed attorneys on the list. And at one time, actually, I was on the list, so I know how that can go. It's just I think that there's a better use of the money. I think we're wasting a lot of taxpayer dollars.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your answers to both of you. Somewhat of a hypothetical, but and more about image than anything else. Long before the current administration, I want to make sure we stress that, the DA's office has had a reputation that some cases involving high-profile or connected residents get preferred treatment. Is that a true or false impression? And either way, how would you combat that so folks have more trust and that those of privilege don't get special treatment? And Ms. Rhodey, you get this first.
Since I was not in the office, I cannot attest to the truth of that, but certainly I have heard that concern as well. You're going to have that concern anywhere, and it ought to be a concern. Y'all as citizens of Galveston County should make sure and should be very concerned that nobody gets special treatment. That has been one of the pillars of my administration, to make sure that the public has confidence that it doesn't matter who you are, what party you are, how wealthy you are, how much power you have, you're not going to get any special treatment from our office. I have kept our office out of political influence and independent from the start, and I have fought fiercely to maintain that reputation. And I've gotten some heat for doing that. But that is a fight I gladly accepted, and it's a fight I continue to welcome when it comes down to maintaining the integrity and the reputation of the Galveston County District Attorney's Office.
Same question to you, Mr. Morris. 1 minute, please, sir.
Well, I learned in law enforcement a long time ago that sometimes perception is reality. So the perception is true, that there is cases that people believe that there is favoritism on. And I think that when you start assigning some of these cases to special prosecutors that involve public officials, families, or whatever, you end up getting that kind of response from the citizens. And that's why I am in favor of special prosecutors in special cases that call for that. I'm just not in favor of giving special prosecutors to every case. I think that for the large majority of the cases, we need to take every case. Nobody should be treated differently unless there's specifically some reason that there should be. And we need to put those in the regular court system along, and any prosecutor should be able to handle any person's case, no matter what type of case it is, as long as they're qualified to handle the cases that are in that court. So that's what I believe is going to take away that perception is if you want to have the transparency, then let these cases just go forward in the courts that they would normally go in. Don't let them be assigned any special prosecutors. Let the prosecutors handle that.
Time, sir. And let me clarify a point, though, if I could there, because it seems like we have a mixed message here. You say don't assign special prosecutors, but keep the transparency within the office as it currently is. In this case, we're talking about folks who may have political connections or be elected to office that would maybe have a case before the court. Are you saying that you would keep that within the DA's office as is and not go with a special prosecutor? I just want to make sure we're clear on that point.
Absolutely. If a family member, an elected official, were to get a case filed against them, then it should stay within the district attorney's office as every other case should.
Okay, that's why I just make sure we clarify that. All right. Next question up, and then this will be first to you, Mr. Morris. What is the biggest challenge that's facing the district attorney's office? How would you combat that, and how would you pay for it if it includes additional funds? Mr. Morris, 1 minute.
Well, I think that one of the biggest challenges that's facing the district attorney's office now would have to be the case management. And I think that the case management is touched by several different factors. One of them is the turnover rate and the way that we handle cases. So I would like to develop a program where we streamline how the case management system is. I think we can do a better job of intaking the cases at the very onset. But I think what we need to do is we need to have more prosecutors in some of the cases, and that's why I proposed the intermediate supervisory positions, especially in the county courts where the largest number of the criminal cases are filed as misdemeanors in Galveston County. That not only will give us more prosecutors that can handle these types of cases, but it's also going to bring us some talent back down from the felony prosecutors to help mentor our younger, newer prosecutors in the county courts at law and help move some of those almost 10,000 cases out of about 13,000 cases that are filed in Galveston County. Will help them move those cases.
Thomas. Same question to you, Mr. Rhodey. 1 minute, please.
Well, the biggest challenge that we face at the DA's office and really as Galveston County is making our justice system more efficient. That's what the consulting firm is addressing. My opponent says we need to have more prosecutors to make it more efficient, but he didn't tell you how he's going to pay for that. I have maintained a lean budget with this office and been careful with your money. Our problem with efficiency is not because of any turnover issue. It's not. It's because we're growing as a county. We're almost 300,000 people now. We have law enforcement agencies all over this county that operate, some of them on their own system, and it can take weeks sometimes for us to get paperwork and evidence from these various agencies. It's going to take a major shift with the county as we kind of lurch forward into becoming a more populous county. And I think it's going to have to occur on a countywide basis, not just in the DA's office, but in an entire justice system together. I think it's a great idea that the commissioners have hired this consulting firm to study that as a whole so that we're not trying to constantly tweak. I think we've done just about all we can to tweak the small things. So I think that's the big picture.
Time, sir. And Ms. Moore, since he started off this conversation, or his answer, talking about what he said was an accusation by you and that you had not addressed it, I'll give you 30 seconds to address that specific point, please, sir.
My plan is to realign the organization in the district attorney's office with existing resources by taking away from some of the specialized prosecution units that are here that are less effective and pulling those back into the general courts and the county courts and the felony courts at law so that we can better utilize our personnel that way. I strongly believe that we have too many people in specialized units, and so I think the efficiency study will probably show that whenever you have specialized units, then you have...
Time, sir. Sorry, yeah, 30 seconds goes pretty fast. Yeah, you're good. Okay, well, you mentioned specialized units. We're probably going to get into that now. And I do believe up first on this one will be you, Mr. Morris. What should the DA's office do to better combat DWIs in Galveston County? 1 minute, sir.
Well, I think that some of the problem is going to come with the education and training to law enforcement. So I think that the district attorney's office is going to have to take an active role in working with law enforcement. And I think there's been typically a lack of communication when it comes to that. There's a lot of issues with DWI that involves either the technicality of in-car videos or that deal with the technicalities of draws or breath test machines. And I think that what we have to do is we just have to be prepared to have more programs that deal with the enforcement of driving while intoxicated. And I think that the district attorney's office probably ought to do more no refusal weekends for those deals, and it may even have a policy that we're going to start taking blood draws on all of the DWIs that we can in Galveston County.
Thank you, sir. Same question to you, Mr. Rohde. 1 minute, please, sir.
Speaking of specialized prosecutors, we have a specialized prosecutor dedicated solely to investigating intoxication assault and intoxication manslaughter offenses. He goes out in the middle of the night to a fatality scene to work with the police on the scene to help them and assist them as they conduct their investigation. And he knows all of the specialized area of law that are required to prosecute those cases and deal with the myriad of scientific evidence that comes into those cases. We have, under my administration, expanded the no refusal program in Galveston County, and we've done it with grants at no extra cost to our county. We've drawn a hard line on DWI cases. Our folks are going to trial on these cases much more often than they used to. In fact, over the last 3 years, we have increased our misdemeanor conviction rate by over 500% from the previous administration. We've drawn a hard line on these cases. We're getting better results because our folks are not afraid to do what they believe in, and that is uphold justice and follow a case through to completion when it's the right thing to do.
Thank you very much, sir. Same question to you, Mr. Moore. Oh, next question, I'm sorry. We did that already. See, I was even with the two. I told you guys I would do that, right?
Probably got extra time.
No. Actually, you're a little ahead, so you guys are doing good here today. All right. Similar subject, but it's more about drug use. Your policy toward prosecuting drug cases. And please differentiate between what are classified as recreational drugs, marijuana, for example, and the harder drug cases, heroin and the like. And we'll go with you first, Jack, and then Bill. Sorry.
The legislature sets the drug law, and they set it based upon your input. You elect them. It's our job to enforce the law and to do it justly. Our penal code is set up that we already punish drug offenses based upon the severity of the drug involved. Marijuana cases tend to be misdemeanors. Cocaine, methamphetamine cases, even trace amounts are felony. You, as the citizens of the state of Texas, you set that policy. It's our job to enforce that. And it is not my job as district attorney to circumvent that. If that's the law, we're going to do it. But we're going to do it with common sense so that, as my first district attorney, Johnny Holmes, said, that our blind following of a rule doesn't produce a damn fool result. We're going to do the right thing in every case, and we're going to make sure that there is a just result in that case. We're going to do it based on the law that y'all enact. It's the will of the people of this state.
Same question to you, Mr. Morris.
I do agree that the laws are statutory and made by the legislation, and the district attorney's office is to follow the law, and in every case that's what they should do. However, I do believe that there are some types of the drug offenses, such as possession of marijuana, that we should fully prosecute, except for the fact that I would also like to invoke a pretrial diversion program to help with our youth and to try to modify that behavior. There could be a punishment part of the prosecution, but I'd also like to deal with some of the issues of having some modification of behavior, some rehabilitation at the expense of the person that is charged with possession of the drug. So whether it's be possession of marijuana, possession of methamphetamine, or possession of cocaine, I would like to see a component that the district attorney's office helps with modifying the behavior and providing for rehabilitation services in addition to punishment.
Thank you both, gentlemen, for your answers here tonight. And it brings us, you're a little bit ahead, but we're going to go ahead and get down to our closing statements now. And as we pointed out, we'll go in reverse order as how we started. 1 minute for each of your closing statements. Mr. Morris, you're up first.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate having the opportunity to come here today to tell you a little bit about me and my experiences. And as I told you before, I believe that the district attorney's office is in need of some leadership. And one of the things that has been forefront of my mind when I was asked by several people in law enforcement to run for this position was I wanted to establish a communication and support with our local law enforcement officers. Our local law enforcement officers are out here, and they're the connection between the district attorney's office and the community on helping them enforce the law. And we need to provide a prosecution team that can be there, that will be hands-on, personal contact with local law enforcement officers to help us better protect our community, better protect our property, better protect our families in the future. And I believe that my experiences as a lawyer and as a police officer in the military service makes me the right choice to be your next district attorney, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, sir. And Mr. Rhodey, you get to close this out tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, this election and the position of district attorney boils down to an issue of trust. It is who you're going to place your trust in to have the power of the prosecution under the authority of the state of Texas. That kind of power could be ripe for abuse. And to maintain the integrity of the office, you have to be willing to maintain independence, to maintain your political independence, and to be willing to tell people no. That's what we've done for the last 3 years, and in doing that, we have earned the support of some very respected members of our community. Mr. Mike Garino, who is the gold standard for district attorneys in Galveston County, is supporting my reelection. The Honorable Freddie Poore, former sheriff. Constables Rick Sharp, Jimmy Fullen, Jerry Fisher, all supporting my reelection because they believe in what we're trying to do and what we have done, which is maintain the integrity of the office. My promise to you is that we will continue to focus on doing the right thing for the right reason, no matter what. No matter what. I ask for your support in my reelection so I can continue to serve you under that sole and true vision.
Thank you, both gentlemen. Please have a round of applause for congratulations. We'd like to thank all of you for coming out. This is the second night of our 4-night of forums. We have another one Thursday night in Santa Fe, but more importantly, we have another one starting here in a little more than 15 minutes. It's the candidates for State Representative District 23 coming up. So it's time to take a break, and we'll have you back here in about 15 minutes. Thank y'all.
You guys are doing a fine job over here. I mean, I've been checking the time. You guys have been right on. You guys have been right on.
Peggy fucking no, I've never met her. No, Peggy. No. Yeah, because,
I don't get down to the other side.
That too. Hey, Commissioner. See you.
It's so nice of you to come on. I know he was glad to see you. I heard
Thank you.
How are you?
There he is. What are we doing?
At any point, like,
I've already given you a well, I can miss you. All right, I'll leave it at that. Oh, there's some great yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I can't take mine off.
I've got some chips in my car.
No, that's not Disney.
I just go for the introduction. Like last, and you last. Come over and entertain me a while. No, I think I had one quit on me. In fact, the one that's supposed to come here to come because he's paid for training.
I came down to say hi to you.
Students can't make it.
I'll get it to you, man.
You're the best woman.
Jason. Rachel.
I'm Jennifer.
I just want to make sure since we're here, if she's a trustee, I wanted to recognize.
We're not up tonight. We're up next week. Oh, okay, nice to meet you. You didn't. It's a lot of responsibility. Oh, you're the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you go ahead and get to your seats, we can start in about 2 minutes. Better than a classroom on Sunday school. I tell you, everyone had quiet as soon as I got up here. Thank y'all very much. David, we ready? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to College of the Mainland's Learning Resource Center. My name is TJ Alls. I'm the Mainland editor of the Galveston County Daily News. This is the second night of our 4 nights of forums this campaign season. We're glad to have you out here. We've already had 2 forums tonight, the first being the candidates for Justice of the Peace Precinct 1, and we just finished up the candidates for County District Attorney. And now we get to our headliner. One of the candidates even said he felt like he was getting ready for a heavyweight bout tonight. Well, this is one yet. This is for the what will be an open seat for State Representative District 23. As is normal with our formats, when it's going to be a contested race, whether in the primary or in the fall, or a combination of both, we invite that all the candidates participate in the forum. So you will notice tonight that we have 2 candidates from the Republican primary and the lone candidate for the Democratic primary. That was at a request of our readers, so they all have the information about all the candidates to make their decisions before the primary vote comes on. So that's the reason for that, instead of a partisan policy all the way through. So we invite all the candidates at each of the times. Our format's pretty simple. We have 2 minutes for opening statements for each candidate, then 1 minute for answers, 1 minute for closing statements throughout. As we ask questions, we have drawn for the order as it goes 1, 2, and 3 as such, and then after that, we'll rotate to 3 and 1, 3, 1, and 2, and as long as I keep better track on my chart, we will go in that order. As I tell folks, I was a journalist, not a mathematician or a statistician, so we will try to keep best of that throughout the night. I do, as the moderator, have the prerogative, if I have noticed that a candidate who has not answered a question directly, to give them a chance to clarify their answer. At the same time as well, if a candidate makes a direct attack on one of the other opponents up there, one or both of those opponents get a chance to answer that, and they'll have 30 seconds to do so. I can, if I do say so, can take the time off that it took to answer that off that next candidate's response. We have not had to do so yet. We think we have enough time built in to let that go throughout the night. Okay, a couple of housekeeping notes if you weren't here earlier. If you need to use the facilities, they are located outside. You do have to go in the cold, located on the back side of the building. So if you go out the door, the side doors here, we have propped open the door over here now so no one gets stuck outside that time around. Also, how many of y'all have your mobile phones with you here? Please hold them up and show them to me, and then show me how you turn them off, if you would. If you don't turn them off, please put them on vibrate. And candidates, I do ask that your phones and your iPads or anything else that could go ring, burr, or anything like that up here be turned off, or so that we don't have it shaking the table, because it does go through on the sound there. As I told you, this is the second night of our 4 nights of forums. Our next night, Thursday night, Santa Fe High School. We will feature the candidates for Justice of the Peace Precinct 2. Now, it's an interesting one. We have 2 Republican and 2 Democrats. The only fully contested races we have this year. That will be Thursday night, starting at 6, and then at 7:30. It is the long and winding road to County Commissioner Precinct 2. All 6 candidates for Precinct 2 have committed to be there at 7:30. This is at Santa Fe High School on Thursday. And then we wrap up our forums on Monday, next Monday, the 17th. That's the day before early voting in the jury assembly room at the Galveston County Justice Administration Building on the island. That will feature JP Precinct 3 at 5:30, and then the 212 and 306 District Court judges candidates will be after that. And then a special Valentine. How many of y'all gotten something for your loved one for Valentine's Day on Saturday? Can you raise your hand? Well, for those of you that haven't, we have something special for you, and it comes in your newspaper. We have our election guide coming out on Saturday. I am quite certain you would like to do that, because not only do you have where polling locations are going to be and what time everything is open, and then some of the questions from our candidate questionnaires that will be in there. It makes a great gift for you and your loved one too, because it has the great ads from all the candidates that are running in Galveston County. So you want to make sure they spend a lot of money to put their smiley faces looking back up at you on that day. So please make sure you get that. It'll be, I know I joke around, but it is in Saturday's paper, just in time for Valentine's Day out there. And as always, the videos of our forums and the candidate questionnaires are online at galvnews.com, free of charge. You don't have to be a subscriber to get that. That's part of the public service of the county's largest media organization. We are so glad to have you all out here. And now, we will introduce our candidates. This is how we actually test the microphone. Candidates, make sure you speak into the mic and get as close as you can so everyone can hear you. And we'll do it in the order in which our candidates will be speaking. First up, the Democrat running for State District 23 State Representative, Susan Chris.
Thank you, DJ. My name is Susan Chris.
This is not the intro, this is just hello. Test the microphone. That's all right.
I think it's working.
Give her attention. All right, here we go.
Good evening, I'm on Faircloth.
Good evening, thank you, TJ. I'm Bob Center.
Mr. Center, if you get a little bit closer to the mic, Ms. Chris, you'll get a little bit further back, and we will be good. Well, that wasn't funny. Come on now. Yeah, here we go. All right, so we'll have our opening statements, 2 minutes each. And Ms. Chris, you are first.
Thank you. For 10 years, I served as an assistant district attorney here in Galveston County, specializing in child abuse prosecution. I was one of the founders of the Child Advocacy Center, one of the things I'm most proud of in my life. I also worked at the University of Texas. I worked at the Attorney General's Office Environmental Protection Division, and I served for 15 years as a district court judge. While there, I'm very proud that I was chairing the MHMR Jail Diversion Task Force, and as such, was asked to testify before the legislature many, many times. I was also asked to testify on behalf of the county for emergency management issues. over 30 years ago, I was in this very room taking a class in government about the legislature. And I remember kind of getting mad because the teacher said something about my dad and I didn't like it, but I thought I was learning about the legislature, but my real lessons learned when I went to Austin, when he was there for 12 years, and I spent time watching hearings, watching debates, and watching what goes on behind the scenes, and learning about how that place works at the early age of 18, 19, 20. I've always been fascinated ever since. I have loved working in public service. I've loved finding new ways to take care of the people in our community and deliver services in the most cost-effective way, and I look forward to doing that in this branch of government as well.
Thank you, ma'am. And now with his 2 minutes for his introduction, Mr. Wayne Fairclough.
Thank you and welcome. I'm Wayne Fairclough. I'm a 38-year resident of Galveston County. My wife Cheryl and I have 5 children, 5 grandchildren. We've invested our lives here in this community and in this county. This last session, I went back and forth to the legislature, worked with the legislators there. Some of you won't like to hear this. We have a Republican majority in the legislature. It is a collegial institution. There are 150 state reps. Everyone has 1 vote. You have to have 75 votes plus me to get anything done. That makes 76. We have more than that in terms of Republican representation. We believe in small government, lower taxes, and efficient use of your taxpayer dollars. This is not about me, it's not about them, it's about you. And that's what this election comes down to. Having served on city council, having worked at the University of Texas Medical Branch as a manufacturer's rep, having served on the Galveston County Water Board, I understand what the issues are. I understand what it is to represent you, and that's what I plan to do in Austin. Thank you.
Before we get to you, Mr. Senator, if I can ask one of our assistants here, the laptop that's on the air, turn its corner toward this way just slightly here. I don't want to cut off the head toward me. Yes, no, the other way. I'm sorry. We were cutting off Mr. Senator's head. That did not look good.
That happens in most Christmas cards.
All right. And with his 2-minute introduction, Mr. Bob Senator Bob.
Thank you, TJ, and thank you to the Galveston County Daily News for hosting these forums. Informing the electorate is a great service that you all provide, and I'm proud and pleased to be here tonight. I live in Texas City, I work in Texas City, and I worship in Texas City. Our independent insurance agency is just across Lowry Expressway, and we've been in Texas City for 85 years. We're not going anywhere. This race is about local support. The 150 state reps that are in Austin each come from a district where they are locally supported. 90% of my campaign support comes from within the district. It comes from bankers and lawyers and physicians and retirees and moms and dads and small business owners. My support doesn't come from out of state. It doesn't come from people in Tyler. It doesn't come from people in Freeport. It doesn't come from people in Corpus Christi or in San Angelo. It comes from right here in Galveston, Lamarck, Texas City, and Chambers County. We have 4 mayors in Galveston County that are in House District 23, and all 4 mayors have endorsed me. This is about local support, and it's about representing you in Austin, and I'm going to be proud to do that January 1st of 2015. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, now we get into the questions. Again, candidates, you have 1 minute each to respond. And Ms. Chris, you'll be going first here. How familiar are you with the legislative process in Austin, and what active role have you taken to not only familiarize yourself in the process, but also take part in either committee hearings or to help legislation? 1 minute.
I have watched hearings for many, many years. As I told you, I have served on the Judiciary Committee that was the liaison to the legislature dealing with the issues that affect the criminal justice system. I've testified for the mental health, retardation jail diversion task force, both at the request of the jail diversion task force and the request of legislators. I've testified on emergency management at the request of the legislators. I have consulted with legislators many times in drafting of different legislation, mostly dealing with criminal justice issues, and also other justice issues that come up in court for many, many years. They know my name on that Capitol, and they know my dog's names.
Thank you, ma'am. And 1 minute for you, Mr. Fairclough.
Yes. I too gone to the legislature for over 20 years, so we've had issues that impact our industry, that impact our county. I know the people there. I work with them. I've testified before committee. I've attended countless committee meetings. It's important to be able to know how to process what goes on there. A friend of mine says it's nice to know, and there are a lot of people who know, and they know a lot. Sometimes we call them know-it-alls. It's nicer to be known. It's much nicer to be known. If somebody knows you and respects you, they're going to support you, and it doesn't matter where they're from. They take the time to get to know you. They take the time to understand what it is that you bring to the table. Someone who protests, someone who doesn't bring any meaningful solutions to the table versus someone who is willing to work to make change happen. It's about you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Faircloth. And now, 1 minute for the answer from you, Mr. Center.
These issues are about what we need in House District 23. And as treasurer of the Texas City ISD Foundation of the Future, we pushed and were successful in getting House Bill 5 passed. House Bill 5 for education is a pathway to graduation for those kids that aren't four-year college bound. Not every kid is going to Sam Houston State or Texas or A&M or Baylor. And our dropout rate was astoundingly high. This is a pathway to graduation for those kids that are going to go to technical colleges, community colleges, and the armed services. We have welders and plumbers and electricians right here in Galveston County that have great jobs, but they've got to have high school degrees. And I'm so proud that we pushed through this legislation in the last session, and I look forward to working on more legislation in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next question up, Mr. Faircloth, you'll be getting this first. But before we do it, just a show of hands from everyone here, because this one shouldn't take up too much time. How many here support either the Ike Dike or Storm Surge Protection Program? Just please raise your hands. Okay, so we didn't need to take up a minute for the answer on that. However, what, if any, role should the state have on funding the proposed storm protection system, or as it's dubbed around here, Ike Dike? Mr. Faircloth, 1 minute, please, sir.
Well, I think at the very minimum, the state needs to support funding for the continuing study of the Ike Dike and what it's going to take to make it a reality. We can coordinate with our county officials whom I know, who I work with on a daily basis, have their cell phone numbers, understand what the role is for us to be have a cohesive front with the Ike Dike, and from the federal level. We need people like Randy Weber and Ted Cruz and John Corn and every other elected official that we can get to help us with this issue. It's important. There's not even a mechanism to reduce flood rates. If we get that dike, we need that to happen as well. And that's going to come from legislation, again, through the federal government.
Thank you, Mr. Faircloth. Mr. Center, same answer to you. 1 minute, sir.
I've had countless discussions with Dr. Merrill of Texas A&M, who's the author and the genius behind the Ike Dike. And the issue that he says over and over is that he goes to Washington and others go to Washington, and our senators and our congressmen say, what's the Ike Dike? Well, that's not going to happen with me as your representative. They're going to know what the Ike Dike is. I'm going to shout it from the mountaintop, because if you don't know, the 13 counties that are coastal counties in Texas represent 40% of the state's GDP. The Rice Plan, the Centennial Gate at the Hartman Bridge, is not going to work. The Ike Dike is the only way to make this work, and I'm going to push that from Austin to Washington when I'm your representative. Thank you.
And same question to you, Ms. Chris, 1 minute.
I actually agree with both of them. I think the state and the federal government need to support this. You can't just pit the coast versus the rest of the state, because the economy here affects the economy of the rest of the state. Houston is one of the largest petrochemical areas in the world, and a fourth of the fish, seafood comes out of our Gulf here. If this area is destroyed, then it affects the rest of the state, and people need to understand that. I am the only one here who had 6 feet of water in my home. I know what that's like. And as hard as that was, and even though it was the third costliest storm in the history of the world, of the United States, it had hit just a few miles, one way or the other, then this city would have been underwater, and Houston would have been underwater. And that would have had just horrible ramifications on Texas' economy. So I actually agree with my cohorts on this one.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, this next question, Mr. Center, you'll be up first. Is there a state program that either should be eliminated or had its budget severely reduced? If so, which one and why? And how would you go about making it happen if elected? 1 minute, sir.
Thank you, TJ. There are a couple that I have identified in going to Austin and doing research. That the Texas Historical Commission does some great things, but they also spend about $5 million in unneeded money, and their budget needs to be curtailed greatly. The second one, and even more on my radar, if you will, is the Texas Commission for the Arts. They spend about $8 million a year, and if you look on their website, they funded a ballet in Amarillo, and they funded an opera in Tyler, and they funded an outdoor theater in Wimberley, and all of those things are great. But they don't need to be funded by our taxpayer dollars. Let's fund them privately and through private foundations, and they'll still happen. But let's cut out those two overreaching and overspending agencies.
Thank you. Same question to you, Ms. Chris.
Well, this is going to be my night to agree with Republicans, I guess, because I agree with Lieutenant Governor, with AG Abbott on this, because what I think we should do is get rid of the governor's slush fund. There's a culture in Texas that we've developed that says that corporations shouldn't have to pay their fair share of taxes, which is crazy. There should be sunset, there was legislation introduced last time that the tax breaks we give them should be sunsetted and to see whether they're still necessary. One such break was to give them tax breaks if they pay their taxes online, to encourage that. Well, that's already happening, so that's pretty ridiculous. I agree with Mr. Center in the sense that there are some things like that that aren't a priority, but those aren't going to make a dent in it. But those hundreds of millions of dollars that those corporations get by with not paying, that's going to make a difference.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Fairclough, same question to you. 1 minute, sir.
I agree and disagree. The amount of money we're talking about here, Mr. Center's referring to, is peanuts. We have a $197 billion biennial budget. About 42% of that goes to education, another 40%, and it's escalating, goes to healthcare. So we're talking about basically $100 billion a year. Cutting $9 million, you can do the math. That is, minuscule. It's not important. We need to start from the bottom, and we need to realize that we're spending your money, and we need to validate what's going on up there. The state budget has increased 312% since 1992. The population adjusted index cost of living is 132%. 132% versus 312%. I can do that math, okay? That's not living within our means. That's not doing what we're supposed to be doing. So to cut anything, we'd have to start from ground one and work our way through this.
Is there a state, we'll go to this next question, we're back at the start here, Ms. Chris. Is there a state program that should be expanded? If so, which one and why, and how would you pay for it? Ms. Chris.
Well, we are mandated by the Texas Constitution to provide a good public education for all of our children. And we've been cutting that, and even though some cuts were restored on that, they weren't. And so what we ended up doing is having to have litigation every few years to go have a court tell us you're not living up to your constitutional mandate, and that's not a good use of money. So I think what we need to do is decide what our priorities are and fund them, and education is our priority.
Meaning then make that a priority and then make sure those funds come from some other sources. Yeah, I just want to make you clarify that point.
I think if you take it away from the governor's slush fund, that's where I take it.
Same question to you, Mr. Fairclough. 1 minute.
Well, certainly education is a priority, and here's what needs to happen. We need to put the independent back in independent school district. It needs to be local control. What we have now is a system that, as my friend Larry Nichols likes to say from Galveston, you don't weigh a steer to fatten it. You don't give 13 tests to figure out where you're going here when what's been happening in the classroom. I'm a classroom teacher. I've been there. I'm going to tell you, it's the toughest job on the planet. And there's no getting around that. We need to understand that. We need to support that. The Texas Department of Transportation has been slighted. It needs to be funded. Nobody wants to sit in traffic. Nobody wants to have to wait to get to where they want to go. That's an area that I would also look at.
If I can also get how you would make sure those funds are there.
Okay. Well, for the Texas Department of Transportation, we diverted $10 billion away from that fund to other programs. That's what the past legislatures have done. We are a donor state. The federal government owes us $10.8 billion. We pay in more in fuel tax than we get back. That's another way to fund that program.
Thomas, thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Senate.
My cohorts have talked about education and transportation, and let me expound a little bit. Yes, the legislature gave back several $billion in the last session of money that they took away in the prior session to education. But we've got to do that to make sure the money goes into the classroom. We can't just keep spending money on education that isn't going to those 5 million kids that are in K through 12 education. Secondly, diversion is a problem in the entire Texas legislature. The budget, the legislators love to get creative with diversion. And we are way, way behind the curve on transportation money. And we've got to begin spending transportation money, and the first place we ought to spend it is the Pelican Island Bridge. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next up, and Mr. Fairclough, you'll get this question first. What's your opinion of the state's current water management policies, and what should the priorities be?
We have 17 regional water plans in the state of Texas. We do not have a master plan, and that needs to happen. There needs to be a regional, a statewide plan. All right, that's number one. Let me just say this. You know, I'm old school. Robert Hutchins knows that. He was one of my teachers years ago. He said that I'm the only failure that he had. But let me just say this. My grandfather would literally roll over today if he knew that we were paying for the $1 for this bottle of water. But let me tell you something. You're not going to live long without it. We need to find some creative alternatives, and one of those is we need to find an economical way to desalinate water. It's possible. If we put people on the moon, it's possible to do this and to do it economically. Water is life. We have to have water. San Antonio is running a pipeline east down I-10, buying water rights from farmers, trying to, because they're out of water.
Time, sir. Don't worry, you'll have a little more time. This question's going to go on for a little bit here. Mr. Senate, same question to you, sir.
I've met several times with Ivan Langford, who runs the Gulf Coast Water Authority, and we're the end of the Brazos River, as most of you know. And I'll tell you a story that happened this last year, which is not good. The Gulf Coast Water Authority had to make a decision about water, and should the plants and municipalities get water, or should the rice farmers in Galveston County get to have a second crop? We had to choose not to give water to those rice farmers for a second crop. The problem is there's no police up the Brazos River. There's no enforcement of anything. The mayor of Sugar Land or anyone upriver from us can take as much water as they want. I'd like to look into seeing if we could have a water master like they do in the valley to take care of water disbursement so that it's equal and fair. We can't go on without any enforcement of these water rights along the Brazos River.
Ms. Chris?
I actually agree with Mr. Fairclough about this. Living on an island, you don't think that water is a problem, but as you know, last year we had water restrictions several times because we were at threat of running out of water that we could actually use. And those of us who went through Ike, and that's kind of crazy because you had a storm surge. For a while, we didn't have good water on our water that was safe to drink and to use. And that's very, very scary. As Wayne said, it's necessary for life, and we need to have a long-term plan for it. And to desalinate economically, that's going to be the key of what we're going to have to do.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we go any further, Mr. Hutchins, I'm sorry you don't get your 30-second rebuttal to Mr. Fairclough here earlier. That may come later in the other debate when you get a little bit later.
Social studies, and you see where he is.
Sorry for the lighthearted moment. Okay, next question. It is still water related, so we can let this go a little bit longer. Mr. Senator, you'll have this first. Is the state spending enough to secure water supply for the entire state? If not, how do you propose to get additional funding, conservation efforts, or the like?
Well, obviously Proposition 6 passed with 70% of the vote in the last election. And that $2 billion from the Rainy Fund can equate to $20 billion of public-private partnerships, whether they be new water treatment plants or whether they be desalination plants. But we've got to come up with the right people. The mayor of Galveston has told me that they've had 4 different groups come to speak to the Galveston City Council, none of which could have run a shoe store. And so we've got to have people that know what they're doing, that are going to take part of this $2 billion from the rainy fund and make our water situation more palatable than it is now.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Chris, 1 minute.
Well, we do have to find the money, and whether it's by throwing out the governor's slush fund and finding ways to get the corporations to pay their fair share, we need to find the money to do it. A couple years ago, we had fires all across the state, and we were in danger of not having enough water to deal with it. That's terrifying. It is a priority, but it's something that we haven't thought of as a priority for a long time. There was legislation passed last time to start dealing with it, but it's a start, and it's just a start. We need to finish that.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Fairclough, 1 minute, sir.
The question again?
The question this time around, let me bring it back up here, is the state spending enough to secure water supply for all parts of the state? If not, how do you propose finding additional funding? And you can also use this question to expound on any of the answers you have on the water issues from a little bit earlier as well.
Okay. Well, they're spending money. I'm just not sure that it's being focused on a plan that is going to produce the results that we want. You know, it's nice to be able to have the funding, and we need the funding to do that. And as was pointed out here, we can take $2 billion is what was voted on, and then through public-private partnerships, we can expand that and make that happen. But there still has to be a general plan, a master plan. We have river masters in Texas. They're just not being used. And that's just one area that reminds you of that.
Thank you, sir. All right, next question up. We are, let's see, just double check. So we're back over here to the beginning again, right? Okay. Just making sure I don't want to screw it up. He's already gotten on me a couple of times about that. I just want to make sure. District 23 includes Galveston and Chambers counties. What can you say about your #1 priority that's specifically local on those county levels for each of those counties that you would work on behalf of those counties to get elected to that office?
I think the biggest issue locally for both of them is to protect the coast. We learned what can happen when you have a storm of the century, and we also know, those of us who are from here, that
It's Amber Alert. So
okay, we also know that.
Hang on, we'll go ahead and let you.
Could you remove them, please?
Yeah. Next time around, make sure no kids go missing. It'll be okay. I really do. All right, so how much time did we have left?
About 40 seconds.
About 40 seconds.
We also know that when it comes to major storms here, it's not a matter of whether, it's a matter of when. And we have to protect our coast. We have to be able to survive the storm. We have to be able to recover economically as quickly as possible when it's over. That is a priority, and when you live on the coast or close to the coast, that always has to be a priority.
So it's both for both counties.
That's
Same
for both
counties.
counties. That's correct.
Mr. Fairclough, 1 minute for your answer, please, sir.
For Chambers County, it's infrastructure. They're growing at a rapid pace. They've got about $15 billion worth of plant expansions going on in that neighborhood, and there are people moving there, by the dozens. And they have congestion there, and so the infrastructure there is going to have to be expanded to allow people to get back and forth to their jobs and to make sure that they have a job. The economy is very important. Most folks just want to be able to make a living and provide for their family. The Port of Galveston is an important piece of this puzzle. We have the Panama Canal being expanded. We have large container ships coming in here. The port needs to be ready to handle that. Between the city and the port and the county and the state and the federal government, there needs to be a plan to expand the Port of Galveston.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Center, 1 minute, sir.
Texas windstorm insurance. It is a broken model. People pay premiums, and when you have a claim, you're supposed to be made whole by that claim. The plaintiff's attorneys after Hurricane Ike made TWIA their playground. We need more legislative oversight, and as an independent insurance agent who deals with business owners and homeowners throughout Galveston County and Chambers County, I know the issues. I know the issues with TWIA. I know how to get the model back to where it's supposed to be and make it run like an insurance company and not like a government bureaucracy, which is the way it's been running since Hurricane Ike.
So no, that for both counties, not
Yes.
the local specific issue. Okay. That does lead to one of our later questions, and I'm going to go ahead and move it up to give everyone a chance to talk about that here. And Mr. Faircloth, we'll give us a second. No, you're fine, David, don't worry. We're just going to give it a little bit of extra time here. It is an Amber. I am pretty proud to see everyone has their Amber Alerts on their phones and stuff. That's an important system in our state, so we're glad to have that. All right, so on Texas windstorm insurance. It has been under a microscope for a while. Complaints up and down the coast, complaints about how it's funded inland as well. Mr. Faircloth, what needs to be done about Texas windstorm insurance program here in the state of Texas? What needs more to be done than what's been done so far?
It needs to be totally reformed. The state of Texas does not need to be in the insurance business, okay? I'm the guy that went to the state legislature, who has testified on committees. I went to both committee meetings this last year. Board of directors met in Galveston, met in Corpus. I'm the guy that was there. I'm the guy that talked to them, found out, hey, what are we gonna do to solve this? It's not gonna be solved by the state. It's gonna take the industry and all the resources available to make sure that we can get the state out of this business. Folks won't pay the premiums. They want their claims to be paid. I understand that. That is totally reasonable. Excessive attorney fee, not reasonable. We need the state to be out of the insurance business. We need the industry to come to us with some solutions. Senator John Corona said this when Senate Bill 1700 came up. He said, you'll come to me with what you can't do, come back to me with what you will do. That's what I want to hear. And that's the kind of attitude we're going to have to take to get this fixed. Otherwise, we're just going to keep kicking the can down the road and we'll get the same result.
Thank you very much. Mr. Senator, 1 minute.
Well, John Smithy from Amarillo says that he's not going to do anything to help protect the rich second homeowners in these coastal cities. Well, on January 1st, 2015, I plan on telling him that they're just regular people and regular folks that live in these 13 counties that are part of the windstorm pool, and of course, the sliver of Harris County that is in the windstorm pool as well. But I'd love for the state to get out of the windstorm insurance. I'd love for Allstate and Farmers and State Farm to write all peril policies throughout these coastal counties, and let's get out of the insurance business. And if they won't write an all peril policy, then ask them to leave the state. But I don't think that we're going to get to that point. I think we've got to find a remedy for the Texas windstorm pool, and it begins with some more legislative oversight.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Chris, 1 minute.
Okay, actually, leaving it up to the big three isn't going to work because one of those big three hightailed it out of here when it looked like they weren't going to have their way and left a lot of homeowners without any protection. So I don't think just leaving it up to the insurance industry to fix is going to happen. They need to be at the table. Insurance it's a good thing. We need it. It's important. And people who are knowledgeable about it need to be at the table. But the table needs to have seats for it other than just insurance agents sitting at it. There's probably nobody who knows more about the problems with TWIA than I am, because I presided over tens of thousands of cases, and I saw the reforms. There are reforms that need to be made. There are many. There is a lot of oversight. There were many people in TWIA and TDI who ended up in front of grand juries because of some of these problems. You're right in the sense that the claims do need to be paid fairly. But even when those lawyers on both sides agreed what was fair, TWIA wouldn't pay the policy. And some people in the legislature and committees and in other parts of government stopped that.
Keeping an insurance, and while understood that this is a federal program, what can the state do to start influencing the National Flood Insurance Program that obviously has been in the topic a lot, and folks along the coast down here have been looking for some help? Mr. Center, you're up first.
Well, the Bigger Waters flood law resembles Obamacare, a law that our friends in Washington didn't read either one of them and passed them both and didn't know the ramifications of either one of them. And as your legislator and as a homeowner and business owner here in Galveston County, we need to have a coalition that goes to see Randy Weber and Pete Olson and all of those that are in Washington and remind them what we do for the state of Texas and how bad this law is for homeowners, business owners throughout the nation. Not just Texas, but throughout the nation. Again, a bad law never read by those friends of ours in Washington.
Same question to you, Ms. Chris, 1 minute.
I do agree with you that, about the coalition, about going there together and working together, and I agree with what Wayne said about the legislature being collegial. It used to be collegial. It got away from it. It got to be where it's us against them and the R's versus the D's, and then people started deciding what was going to be in the next ad instead of what was good for the people that they represent. But this is something that we do need to come together and as legislators in Texas and in dealing with the ones in Austin and in Washington. And you're right, there have been problems with both Obamacare and both with the Biggers Water because they weren't read. And people just passed them based on partisan lines. And that Biggers Water, that creates a lot of problems for people here that I don't think were appreciated.
And Mr. Fairclough, 1 minute for you, sir.
Yes, part of the issue is building standards. They need to be standardized standards. That's what standard is. And that's not happening here. People are building homes with no idea that, hey, you're in a flood zone. You need to build up. I talked to people on the West End and said, we should have built to 19 feet. We could have after Ike. We didn't know. Well, you need to know that. That's an important point when you rebuild your home. We need standards, and it has to be statewide. It can't just be from here. The second thing is, it's disconcerting to me that our elected federal officials decided to get righteous over a $24 billion problem. What am I saying there? After Katrina, the administration pumped in $20 billion. Those folks were given money to shore up their levee systems, and they didn't do it. They spent it elsewhere. We felt sorry, went in and spent $20 billion we didn't have, and gave it to them to protect New Orleans. Now we're $24 billion in the hole, and they want us to pay it back.
Next question up, and let's put this back, I believe right here with you, Ms. Chris. Do you support the Texas Open Beaches Act as it is in the Constitution? And what is your opinion of the severance case, and what should the legislature do about it?
I support every provision of the Texas Constitution that doesn't conflict with the United States Constitution. I took an oath to protect and defend that each time I was elected when I became a lawyer, and I believe in that. And as long as that's the law, I do support it. And I also support the spirit of it. I do disagree with it. I was actually the law clerk on the case that court did not acknowledge that the dissent talks about, the Motka case. I was the law clerk in that situation. I think that the legislature can clear up some problems with that, and there have been some things that have been cleared up, and there's a study group that was formed to deal with that is supposed to come out with a report in December of 2014, and I'd be interested to see what that study group comes up with and go forward from there.
And to clarify real fast, when you say you were the law clerk, not on the severance case, but another case.
No, the case that dealing with open beaches from Hurricane Alicia that is referred to in that severance case, that was referred to in the dissent. I was the law clerk in that case.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Mr. Fairclough, 1 minute.
Yes. The question being in favor of Open Beaches Act?
Right. Obviously, where's your stand on Texas Open Beaches Act? And more importantly, though, is your stance on the severance case, its ruling, and what the legislature needs to do to either combat what it answered or go along with it.
And how long do I have?
Yeah, 1 minute.
Oh, wow. Okay. The severance case did a couple of things. Okay. Chief Justice Dale Wainwright said this. It establishes private property rights. You and I want private property rights. We don't want someone to come in and take our property from us and tell us we don't own it anymore. We don't want the government. We don't want any being able to do that. We want to protect public property rights. That's huge in Texas. All right, the second thing it did would say, okay, we have Open Beaches Act to go back to the 1840 law. It says if there are established easements to the open beaches, you have the right to access those, but not across private property that has not established easements across it. That's what the case said. The legislature, I would like to think they could fix that if there was some fixing to do, but we have 19,000 laws now that seem to complicate our lives in more ways than, so rather than have a law of unintended consequence, it's been established. I think it'll work the way it's written.
Thank you, sir. You actually did good. You got it under your minute. Mr. Senator.
Property rights in the state of Texas are the gold standard and should not be tinkered with. If a person has beachfront property and they are told that their beach is 200 feet in front of them and they have a storm and then their beach is 100 feet in front of them, they should still have the 200 feet in front of them. They own title to that property. The bigger problem is the General Land Office. The General Land Office has gotten too large. It's too large for one commissioner. It's too large of a bureaucracy, and there's not enough legislative and statewide oversight on the GLO. And one thing I would like to do is get in there and get with our new land commissioner, George P. Bush, and work on some more government oversight and make sure that the GLO is doing what we Texans expect them to do.
Thank you very much, sir. Next question up. There's been a lot of controversy, particularly for the folks on the Bolivar Peninsula, about the rollover pass and the plan by the GLO to fill it in. It was granted by the legislature for the GLO to go ahead and fill it in. There's a federal lawsuit pending right now about that. But what should be done about rollover pass on the Bolivar Peninsula? And first up with this one, actually, Mr. Fairclough, you're up first.
Well, having spent time there and knowing the people there, believe it or not, it's much like gambling on Galveston Island. You find as many people that are for it as are against it. There is a lot of controversy over that. Some people don't like it. They don't like people crowding the highways and using that as access. I've been told the thing to do would be to add jetties out front. That won't work. It will still silt in. It's going to. I think that for me, I think the people ought to be given a choice. I think the people that live there, the people that have that land should be able to decide. I don't like the idea of the state or the county or anybody else making that decision.
Mr. Senator.
In general, I don't like the state coming into a particular area and cutting off their lifeblood. The lifeblood of Rollover Pass is tourism, it's fishing, it's those children who catch their very first fish at Rollover Pass. And I don't want the state to come in and tell them this is what we're going to do. I think that we ought to establish a commission that gets together the county and the state, the CCA, Ducks Unlimited, the residents of Bolivar and Crystal Beach, and let's have an open discussion and figure out what's the best solution for this problem, not just make a hard sale decision.
So just to clarify, it's an undecided about which way it should go at this point here. Ms. Chris, 1 minute.
My understanding is that the people want it to stay open. I think it should stay open. I think that it's one of the few handicap accessible fishing locations in Texas, and that's very important to people. People in Bolivar have lost so much, and I do agree with Mr. Senator that the county has got to stop taking everything away from them without even any concern about what happens to those people or what they think about it. So I do agree with you on that point, but I think it should be stay open.
Thank you, ma'am. We get to the big part of the budget, public school financing. What needs to be done about public school financing in the state of Texas? Mr. Senator, you're up first. 1 minute.
Well, as I said earlier, there are 5 million kids in K through 12 education in the state of Texas, and that it grows by 60,000 kids a year. Someone asked me the other night, what about the way that we spend money on educating illegal immigrants? Well, in 1995, our Governor George Bush said that we're going to educate everyone. no matter who they are. It's a funding problem. We live right here in Texas City and one of the largest Robin Hood donors in the state. Something like $12 million sent last year. I think some of that Robin Hood formula and funding needs to be looked at. We choose to live in Texas City, and our money should stay in Texas City. We choose to live here, we choose to educate our children here, and all of that money shouldn't go around the state, and I would like to look at other formulas for the way to send that money and to have educational funding for those 5 million kids.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Chris?
The Robin Hood problem, Hood situation does have some problems, and I think that the case that's in litigation right now might resolve some of that. We are bound to educate our kids. We've got teachers who are spending on the average $700 of their own money buying supplies. Teachers have to work 2 jobs. We have the ratio of kids to teachers is not effective and just doesn't work. We've got to make that a priority, and we've got to put our money there and restore the cuts. All of the cuts to there. Not and restoring the cuts alone isn't going to do it. That's going to make us status quo to where we should have been a couple of years ago, a couple of sessions ago. We've got to stop letting corporations not pay their fair share of taxes to begin with, and find ways and make that a priority, and stop giving it away to all the rich people instead. But I do agree that the Robin Hood is a problem, and that was a well-intended solution that didn't work so well.
Mr. Fairclough, 1 minute, sir.
Education is a major component of the budget. I mean, you could say that it's going to broach $50 billion a year. The federal government provides 10% of the funding for state education. You know that? They provide about 10% of the funding. They want 100% of the say. That's the problem. That's the problem. They want to tell us what to put in the cafeteria. They want to tell us how we're going to have teachers, what they're going to teach, how they're going to teach, the time that's going to be spent, all of that. We need the independent school district. All right, you know best how to spend your money. You know best how to educate your kids. The first thing you have to have, if you can't make a child behave, you're not going to be able to educate them. Education's a privilege. It's a privilege. It was when Robert was my teacher, and it is today. You know what? You don't. It's not free. You and I are funding that, and it comes from our hard-earned tax dollars.
Thank you all for that. A little bit of some politics to come in here in a political forum. I sure hope that means that the child's been found now. We are now back at the start of the order. Ms. Chris, this will be up for yours. If elected, who are you going to support for House Speaker and why?
Well, I'm not necessarily going to commit at this moment, but I'm going to tell you this. Speaker Strauss took care of Galveston when we needed it most. He put our own representative, Craig Island, as Speaker Pro Tem. He gave him good committee assignments. We would have lost much more. We probably wouldn't have UTMB had that not happened, and I have to eternally be grateful for that. You have to work with the speaker, because if you want to start a war with the speaker, you're not going to get committee assignments. You may have the best ideas in the world, and your bills will never see the light of day. And so right now, we're assuming who's running and who's not running, and that could change a dozen times over, but let me just say this, I have a great deal of gratitude to Speaker Strauss for taking care of Galveston and being fair to us and helping get through what we needed to get through to recover economically and to save UTMB.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Fairclough, 1 minute.
Yes. Absolutely, you have to be able to work with the speaker. Would we like to have someone that is much more conservative? I would. I'd like to have someone that's more reflective of my values and of my priorities rather than what's there. But I am being elected to represent you. And in order to do that, I need to be effective. And if I'm going to be effective, I'm going to support the Speaker of the House, because those committee assignments are critical. Otherwise, you'll do like I've been to some of these banquets lately where they seated me in the parking lot and didn't feed me. Okay? That's the kind of treatment you'll get from people that you'll oppose, people that don't like you. I don't want that. I want to be effective. I want to be able to represent you. Thank you.
Mr. Senator, 1 minute.
I'm going to vote for the most conservative candidate for Speaker of the House. I have been contacted by Gordon Johnson, who is Speaker Strauss's right-hand man, and he would like me on Friday to come to Austin to meet with Speaker Strauss. I've not met him, and I look forward in the days ahead to meeting his opponent or opponents. But until then, I'm going to form my own opinion, decide what's best for myself as a representative and as a representative of you all, and vote for the most conservative Speaker of the House.
Thank you, folks. Next up now, we will, we're starting with Bob on this one, correct? I believe, this question? No, I'm sorry. This is going to be, no, it's Wayne. I'm sorry. All right. Each of you has received considerable donations for people who may have something to gain from legislation you may have to vote on, or actually write. Knowing this is a necessary part of the process, what can you say to voters that would convince them that you won't be unduly influenced by campaign contributors?
I heard a politician say that all interest is special interest. I think there's some validity to that. But here's what you have to know, that I will be criticized for my campaign donations. We all will be. We're all going to be. We're all going to be scrutinized by that. But here's what you can know. I'm a Republican. I'm a lifelong committed Republican. And the people respect me. Again, it's about being known. They respect me. They support me. I helped start a PAC in 2005 because of the issues with TWIA. After Katrina, all the companies dumped all of their windstorm into the windstorm pool, in the Texas windstorm. No one rang the bell. When 911 should have been called, the legislature didn't say anything, the Texas Department of Insurance didn't say anything, and neither did Texas Windstorm. Everyone up there. We went from 38 billion, now we're at 78 billion in exposure, and 40% of that is in Galveston County. We have people that understand the problems. They know that I know what to do because I've been there, and they're going to support me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Senator, 1 minute.
In my opening statement, I talked about local support. And again, I think that when 90% of my campaign support comes from within the district and comes from Galveston and Texas City and Lamar and Chambers County, that equates to local support. I don't have big insurance supporting me. I don't have people from around the state supporting me. Again, I have people just like you all, attorneys, lawyers, bankers, retirees, moms and dads. That's who's supporting me, and that's who I want to represent in Austin. All of the constituents, the 180,000 constituents of House District 23 is who I plan to support and who I plan to represent.
Ms. Chris, 1 minute.
I have support from all over the state of Texas, and I'm proud. I ran for statewide office, and I met people, and they still support me, and I'm very, very proud of that. I have support from lawyers. We all got to get criticized, you're right, Wayne. And I have support from lawyers because I'm a judge, and they appeared in front of me. And I have support from plaintiffs' lawyers. I have support from defense attorneys. I handled 4,016 claims from BP, and I have contributions from the plaintiffs' lawyers, and I have from BP lawyers all the way up to the corporate lawyer from Chicago, Bill Noble. But the ones that I'm most proud of are the contributions I get that are the small ones, like the one that made me cry every time I got the envelope was Georgia Bell Legendary, who I sat with next to at St. George's Church every Sunday before she passed away, because I also worship in Texas City, well, and I've done it since I was 3. But I sat with Georgia Bell, and Georgia Bell was a retired on fixed income. She sent me a little check every single month. And every month that I opened it, I cried when I saw that, because I knew that meant she had confidence in me. That meant more to me than anything. And the second one that's impressed me, when I got one from Racehorse Haynes, it said Mr. Haynes, and I was like, oh my God. No. But it said Racehorse.
I think it was bigger than $25. All right, this next question up is, Mr. Senator, you get to go first. We're still on the political side of things. Since this is a party primary election, explain your voting history. Have you ever voted in another party primary other than the one you are running for now? If so, how often? Remember, I'm asking about primary voting. And how long have you consistently voted in the primary for the party to which you seek the nomination for this office? Mr. Senator, 1 minute.
Well, I voted in the last 2 Republican primaries. One of them I voted early, and one of them I voted on Election Day. In 2008, as Rush Limbaugh encouraged many of us Republicans, because our presidential primary was sewn up by John McCain, I voted in the Democratic primary to oppose Barack Obama. I imagine that a lot of us in this room wish we had done the same thing and opposed Barack Obama. So, yes, I voted in a Democratic primary in 2008. I guess I began voting for Republicans in Waco, Texas, when I voted for George H.W. Bush when I turned 19 years old, and have continued to vote Republican since then.
I just want to be clear, as I said earlier, these were all primaries. There was only one in which you did not vote in the Republican primary?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Chris?
I've only voted in Democratic primaries, and I too am a big Hillary Clinton supporter.
Oh, you're done.
I don't have to explain my votes,
Okay. All right. Well, I figured you have a little challenge there, but Mr. Fairclough.
Well, I don't have a lot in common with these two. I've never voted Democrat. Never have. I voted in every Republican primary. I've worked in the party, from a poll watcher to a precinct chairman to a state delegate, election judge. I've done all of that. I didn't show up here a few years ago and decide I wanted to make this my home. There are 3 generations of Faircloths that live here. We're here, and we have worked to build what we have today. I'm proud to be a Republican, and my voting record shows that.
Thank you all. Please give a hand to all of our candidates. Closing statement here in just a second, but I do appreciate all of y'all coming out here tonight. I know it's a challenge sometimes. It's a busy time of the year, particularly as we get closer to early voting starting up next week. I do appreciate y'all all coming out here, and your schedules are not your own. And Mr. Fairclough and I know we talked about this. Let's just, for all of you, let's hope we're not having the same thing we had 2 years ago, where we're still talking in June and July about the primary out there. Again, a reminder, folks, we do have our next forum. It is Thursday night in Santa Fe. It starts at 6 o'clock. We're at Santa Fe High School. JP Precinct 2 candidates. They're the 2 Democrats and the 2 Republicans have all committed for that. Then also the very wide-ranging 6 candidates running for County Commissioner Precinct 2. That's at 7:30. We hope to get in as many questions as we can in that one. And then our final forum will be next Monday at the Galveston County Justice Administration Building, the Jury Assembly Room. That's where we'll start off at 5.